Chapter 34-44. Undying Skeleton. The Blood Skull King was only left with its head and body. However, it still didn't fear death. It was as if it was its mission to protect the treasure. Haha, arrogant, let's see how arrogant you can be. Ningbo Tao was also covered in blood, but he couldn't hold back his excitement and laughed loudly. All the experts were breathing heavily, but when they thought of the treasure that was about to be in their hands, they also laughed happily. You only have a head and a body left. What can you do? Now, I'll give you a chance. Submit to me. Duan Wuhan walked forward step by step and came to the Blood Skull King's side with his hands behind his back. The Blood Skull King was a demigod existence. If it could submit to Duan Wuhan would have a powerful left and right arm. Crack. However, the Blood Skull King didn't speak. Instead, its skeleton shattered. One of the fragments shot toward Duan Wuhan, but Duan Wuhan dodged it. His cheek was also scratched. This might be the Blood Skull King's reply. Duan Wuhan wiped the blood off his face and tasted it. He couldn't help but laugh coldly. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. As soon as he finished speaking, he lifted his right leg high up in the air, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. In the sky, an ancient mammoth appeared and lifted its leg high up in the air before stomping down heavily on the Blood Skeleton King. At this moment, an incomparably ferocious wave rolled out, and those who were weak were directly swept off the sacred mountain. Is this Duan Wuhan's talent? Although he was injured before, he didn't use his talent. This is the first time. Can you tell what his talent is? All the experts were shocked. Although Duan Wuhan's realm was not high, his talent was strong and fierce. It was said that he had the bloodline of a god. It was the bloodline of one of the 4 great gods. Boom! This kick was indeed terrifying, and it caused the godly mountain to tremble. The Blood Skeleton King was unable to block it at all. Cracks appeared on the bones of the Blood Skeleton King, and soon after, it exploded. Countless bone fragments scattered on the ground. Dead. The demigod Blood Skull King was dead. Everyone laughed, and they laughed with extreme joy. This was because even though the Blood Skull King was a demigod, it was actually a martial god. This was because its bones were too hard, and its defense was too strong. Everyone's laughter resounded throughout the divine mountain, shaking the heavens and earth. Far away, Lin Ling's group was frowning, and the 9th god I let out a long sigh. It seemed that he couldn't stop those fellows from seizing the treasure. No, that's not the Blood Skeleton King. It's the Undying Skeleton. Lin Ling's words left the 9th god I dumbfounded, not understanding what Lin Ling meant. However, Lin Ling had no time to explain. He hurriedly led the 9th god I and the criminals toward the divine mountain. At this moment, everyone on the divine mountain was still laughing. They could not help but feel excited. Some of the more impatient experts even took out wine to drink, as if they were preparing a celebratory feast. Duan Wuhan, with his hands behind his back, glanced at the people of the Duan clan. He found that most of them were dead, but he did not feel any heartache. Because as long as he brought the treasure back to the Duan clan, not only would the Duan clan not blame him, they would even reward him greatly. Exchanging several hundred martial ancestors for a treasure, the Duan clan had clearly profited. Thinking of this, Duan Wuhan's gaze fell on the surroundings. Suddenly he frowned. This was because the skeleton fragments around them were actually tumbling. If one didn't look carefully, they would think that it was the wind that was blowing. However, Duan Wuhan knew that it was not the wind that was blowing. Instead, the skeleton fragments were being summoned and were gathering at this moment. Subconsciously, Duan Wuhan looked in the direction of the bone fragments, and then his face changed. He shouted, "Not good, the Blood Skull King is not dead." As soon as his voice fell, everyone stopped laughing and frowned. The Blood Skull King was not dead? Previously, they had sacrificed so many people to blow up the Blood Skull King. If the Blood Skull King was not dead, would they have to fight the previous battle again? At the thought of this, they shuddered all over. If such a battle were to occur again, they would most likely be completely annihilated. Look, there is a blood-colored bone fragment over there. Suddenly, someone pointed to the front and said. On the ground in front of them, a palm-sized bone fragment of the blood skull was lying on the ground, and the bone fragments around it were rolling toward it. Destroy the blood skull fragment. Everyone immediately reacted and let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they They found the blood skull fragment and prevented the blood skull king from resurrecting. An old man was closest to the blood skull fragment, so he took the lead and pounced on it, slamming his palm toward the ground. Yes, ancient grand wizard. Everyone immediately laughed as if they had solved a mortal enemy. However, before the old man could get close to the blood skull fragment, a sword slashed from afar and cut off the old man's arm, spilling blood all over the ground. Then, a figure stood in front of the blood skull fragment and looked at everyone with a smile. This time, everyone was stunned. What did this guy mean? You cut off my arm. As for the old man whose arm was cut off, he was roaring angrily. Hee, you are wrong. I should have cut off your head. However, the newcomer was extremely arrogant. With a wave of his sword, he cut off the old man's head. The old man died unjustly. If he was in his peak condition, he would definitely be able to block that sword. However, he was already exhausted after the battle with the Blood Skull King, so he was easily killed by the newcomer. You know what you are doing. Seeing this, everyone was furious. This person seemed to want to harm me, so I killed him. It's that simple. However, the newcomer was still smiling, as if what had just happened had nothing to do with him. That carefree smile had undoubtedly infuriated everyone. I don't know who you are, but you better get out of my way now, or don't blame me for being impolite. A powerhouse of the new heavenly court said coldly. Oh, what impoliteness. You'd better tell me clearly. Unfortunately, the person who had come was still unhurried, and his tone was even lazy. Anger. The powerhouse was stunned and trembled with anger. Does this guy know what he is doing? Don't be fooled, everyone. He is deliberately stalling for time. At this time, Ningbo Tao seemed to have come to his senses and said coldly, "Stalling for time?" Everyone looked behind the newcomer, and only then did they realize that the blood-red skull fragment was getting bigger and bigger. Damn it! This guy pretended to be stupid and crazy, so he did it on purpose. Who are you? Why are you ruining our plans? Ningbo Tao looked at the mysterious man with hostility, and the others were also filled with killing intent. Only a fool would dare to offend people from all the major forces at the same time. Hee, I am an old acquaintance of yours. The mysterious man shrugged his shoulders and unhurriedly took off the brim of his hat, revealing a delicate and pretty face. Seeing this face, many people came to their senses and said in a daze, "You are the son of the devil?" At this time, they finally understood why the newcomer had stopped them. Chapter 34-45. Stalling for Time. The son of the devil was someone who only wished for the world to be in chaos. He was not afraid of heaven or earth. He was an old enemy of all the major forces, so how could he let them off easily? Now they had finally killed the blood skeleton, but the son of the devil came to make trouble, trying to resurrect the blood skeleton. At this moment, if looks could kill, Lin Ling would have been slashed 1,000 times by the gazes of the experts. However, Lin Ling did not seem to care about their killing intent at all. Instead, he slowly took off his head, revealing his blue and white robe. Why are you so fierce? We are old rivals. Can't we talk nicely when we meet? Sigh. His tone was as if he was talking to a friend. But in fact, he was just stalling for time. And this kind of casual tone undoubtedly made the faces of the experts crooked. They were all life and death enemies, so how could they talk nicely? Son of the devil, I know your purpose, but you seem to think too highly of yourself. Do you think you can mess up our plan by yourself? Sigh. At this time, Duan Wuhan, who had been silent, also spoke. This was the first time he saw Lin Ling, but he had to say that Lin Ling was quite bold. In front of such strong experts, he actually dared to show his face. He also slowly looked at the blood skeleton fragments. He knew that it would take some time for the blood skeleton to be resurrected, so he was not in a hurry. On the contrary, he wanted to see what Lin Ling could say. However, no matter what Lin Ling said, he would die here today. I think it shouldn't be difficult to stop you. Sigh. Lin Ling also spoke, still as casual as before. Do you think stalling for time is useful? Even if I give you an incense stick's worth of time, you can't change anything. Duan Wuhan seemed to have seen through Lin Ling and smiled faintly. Hearing this, everyone looked at the blood-red skull fragments and couldn't help but smile. Every single one of them was an ambitious and ruthless character, capable of dominating a region of the 9 prefectures. Previously, They had lost their minds because they were afraid of the Blood Skull King. But now, they realized that the Blood Skull King needed a certain amount of time to revive. During this period of time, they were confident that they could kill the son of the devil and destroy the blood skull fragments. Therefore, they were not in a hurry. Son of Devil, Lin Ling. It was an old man wearing a monk's robe. There was a Buddhist light on his body, but if one looked closely, there was a devil within the Buddha. This was an elder from the Immortal Temple. Lin Ling looked at him and asked calmly, "Has your saint arrived?" Son of the devil, the saintess didn't come. Moreover, the Immortal Temple didn't expect you to know the saintess. The saintess won't be with you. Right now she is transforming. As long as she succeeds, she will become the great Buddha saintess of the Immortal Temple. She will also forget about you completely. The old man said calmly. Lin Ling was furious. And Xueqi had lost her memories after becoming the saintess of the Immortal Temple. Otherwise, Xueqi would definitely come back. He had always wanted to bring Xueqi back, but because he wasn't strong enough, he could only wait. Lin Ling, don't be impulsive. Xueqi is in the Immortal Temple. Although she can't come back for the time being, she is constantly becoming stronger. This is also her opportunity. At this time, a faintly discernible voice entered Lin Ling's ears, causing Lin Ling to be stunned for a moment. Then he nodded. Indeed, Xueqi would be safer if she stayed in the Immortal Temple. Moreover, she could become stronger. When the Immortal Temple elder saw that Lin Ling had suddenly calmed down, he was immediately displeased. The reason he had said all this before was to make Lin Ling lose his mind. However, he didn't expect Lin Ling to suppress it so well. In the beginning, the Immortal Temple didn't put the name of the Son of Devil in their eyes. However, in the Eternal Forbidden Forest, Lin Ling was stabbed by Xueqi, but he was still alive. Then, he killed the god, killed the devil, and then went to the Great Battle of the Yan Province and the Great Battle of the Qing Province. The insignificant existence in the past had finally become a famous figure in the 9 regions. All of these made him not dare to underestimate Lin Ling. If he maintained this kind of progress, Lin Ling would become a big problem. In the eyes of the Immortal Temple elder, a thick killing intent flowed out. Of course, it wasn't only him. The experts of the Great Devil sect were the same. The 5th demon elder had died in Lin Ling's hands and was still alive. This had already caused the Great Devil sect to suffer great shame. The most important thing was that every time they wanted to wash away the shame, the Son of Devil would become stronger, causing them to fail again and again. This kid is really powerful. If he is used to plant goo, it will definitely be a peerless goo. The Land of Eternal Rest was also full of hostility towards Lin Ling. As for the Flying Dragon Organization and the Fuxing Manor, there was no need to say much, including the Duan family. For a time, the Divine Mountain was a little quiet, and the oppressive atmosphere filled the air. Apart from King Bloodskull, Lin Ling was also the target of everyone's attention. Now, what else do you want to say? Duan Wuhan said indifferently with his hands behind his back. He didn't think that Lin Ling could survive. It was absolutely certain that he would die. He didn't expect that when he seized the god's bone, there would be an unexpected harvest. He could kill the Son of Devil. If so, Martial God Wentian would owe him a big favor. Don't you feel ashamed that so many of you want to kill me? Moreover, in terms of seniority, you should be more famous in the final world so it can be considered as the big bullying the small. Don't you have any shame? At this time, Lin Ling said lazily. It seemed to be sarcastic, but he didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. In this case, if it came from someone else's mouth, we would give him a chance. But you, the Son of Devil, can't do that. You once killed a deity. Duan Wuhan immediately smiled. It seemed that he had put Lin Ling on a high pedestal, but in fact, he had also killed the scruples of the powerhouses. It had to be said that he was very cunning. Because if it were someone who valued face here, they would definitely not join forces to kill Lin Ling. Instead, they would fight him one-on-one. This was Lin Ling's trap. Thank you. After hearing what you said, I also feel that I am a big shot. Lin Ling immediately returned a smile, but his evaluation of Duan Wuhan had also increased by 1 point. This person was very powerful. On the surface, it seemed that he could easily kill him, but he still chose to use unscrupulous means. Such people were the most difficult to deal with. Then time is up. Lin Ling, I know you want to resurrect the Blood Skull King, but you seem to have thought too highly of yourself. Duan Wuhan looked at the Blood Skull King again and smiled. Unfortunately, even if I give you time, you can't make any big waves. You really disappoint me. He said it nicely, allowing Lin Ling to stall for time. It seemed that he was extremely generous. In fact, he had already calculated the time. Hee, I don't believe you can stop us by yourself. Son of Devil, Lin Ling, I heard that you are the spokesperson of miracles. Today you can create a miracle for us to see. To die here, to die by our hands, you should be satisfied. The powerhouses of all forces finally revealed their fangs. Chapter 34-46. Who said I'm alone? With their combined strength, Lin Ling couldn't possibly stop them. Even if they fought one-on-one, Lin Ling would have a hard time winning. That's right, it's hard for me to stop you all by myself, but who said I'm alone? Sigh. Just as they were about to attack, Lin Ling smiled. Not only did he not prepare for battle, he even put away the tyrannical song. Everyone was stunned. Ningbo Tao frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" Simple. Simple. Son of Demon Lin Ling, there's still us. Sigh. Just as Ningbo Tao finished speaking, a large number of experts appeared in the sky. They were all criminals. They smashed into the ground like meteors and appeared beside Lin Ling. Although these criminals weren't the strongest, there were many of them. Now, it won't be easy for you to destroy the blood skull fragments. Sigh. While Ningbo Tao and the others were stunned, Lin Ling said indifferently. Duan Wuhan's brows furrowed tightly. Lin Ling had also prepared a trick. However, he immediately laughed and said, "It'll only take an extra incense stick of time. These people are just cannon fodder." Is that so? What if I'm included? At this moment, a large spatial fluctuation appeared. The sky above the divine mountain twisted, and an old man in a black robe looked down at the divine mountain. The ninth god eye. Damn it, the ninth god eye has been with Lin Ling all this time. I actually forgot about him. Damn it, we were tricked. We should have killed Lin Ling from the start. The experts were stunned at first, then their faces darkened with anger. The ninth god eye was a demigod. It would take a lot of time to kill him, and if the Blood Skull King were to revive at that time, they would be in trouble. Previously, they could have easily killed Lin Ling, but because they wanted Lin Ling to regret, they let Lin Ling speak slowly. Now, they were the ones who regretted it. Among them, Duan Wuhan was the most regretful, and his eyes were cold. We don't have much time left. Let's kill them immediately. Ningbo Tao knew that there was no time to lose. If he delayed any longer, it would be even more disadvantageous for them. Although the ninth god eye is a demigod, he can't compare to the Blood Skull King. We've even killed the Blood Skull King, so why should we fear him? The expert from the Flying Dragon organization also shouted angrily. My apologies, but the ninth god eye isn't the only one joining in the fun. However, at this moment, Lin Ling's indifferent voice floated out again. Stop trying to be mysterious. Could it be that you, the son of the devil, can summon some experts? Duan Wuhan clearly didn't believe him. Sigh, why don't you believe me when I tell you the truth? Think about it. What great forces have come to the sacred mountain that hasn't appeared yet? Lin Ling shrugged and spread his hands. It seems that the Creation Alliance hasn't appeared yet. Could it be? All the powerhouses reacted, and their hearts trembled. Was the Creation Alliance going to help Lin Ling? However, the more they were worried about something, the more it appeared in the sky. The ferocious nine-lantern demonic fish cut through the clouds and arrived with a large number of experts. The person in the lead had a faint smile on his face. It was nine-lantern fish Lu Chen. Previously, it was also him who had warned Lin Ling about an Yuer in the Immortal Temple. They had already contacted each other a few days ago and had reached an agreement. The Creation Alliance. Everyone looked at nine-lantern fish Lu Chen, fuming with anger. At the beginning, they wouldn't have feared the Creation Alliance. After all, they had more experts on their side. However, they had already fought a great battle with the Blood Skull King and suffered countless casualties. Now that the Creation Alliance had come to cause trouble, it would definitely have a huge impact on them. Lin Ling, the son of the devil, it's you. Duan Wuhan was the angriest of them all, roaring at Lin Ling, don't be in such a hurry. The fun isn't over yet. However, Lin Ling was not afraid at all and still spoke slowly. For some unknown reason, everyone's heart skipped a beat when they heard his words. Lin Ling had really surprised them today. Moreover, when they saw Lin Ling's lazy appearance, they couldn't help but feel angry. When they looked at the sky again, ghostly aura billowed and numerous tombs of gods and demons appeared. Everyone didn't need to look to know what kind of force it was. It was the Tomb Guardian clan. The Tomb Guardian clan also gave you face? Duan Wuhan felt incredulous. The Tomb Guardian clan was one of the 9 states' 10 evils. Generally speaking, they didn't have any contact with outsiders. How could they give Lin Ling face? He had always thought that Lin Ling only knew the God Slayer alliance in the 9 states. Now, he realized that he was wrong. Ridiculously wrong. Perhaps I, Lin Ling, am more popular. I didn't ask them for help and they decided to cooperate with me. Also, I forgot to mention that there is another big force here. At this time, Lin Ling seemed to be rubbing salt on the wound and said another sentence. There is more. The hearts of the experts from the Divine Mountain seemed to have fallen into the abyss. This son of the devil was never done. Currently, the experts on Lin Ling's side might not be able to stop the Blood Skull King's resurrection even if they used all their strength. And now there was more. Fuck. Even though these ancient experts had calm temperaments, they couldn't help but curse at this moment. Ka ka ka. In fact, there was indeed another big force in the sky. Looking around, there were divine beasts all over the sky. A huge phoenix was flying over with those divine beasts. This phoenix was very strange. It actually had the Azure Dragon armor. It looked like a dragon and a phoenix. On top of the phoenix was an expressionless woman. She wore a standard robe and gave off a very serious feeling. Coupled with those emotionless eyes, she looked like a puppet. Xueqi clan. Everyone's face was full of disbelief. The Xueqi clan had concealed their identity for tens of thousands of years and didn't have any contact with outsiders. Moreover, the son of the devil wasn't from the same era as them. It was impossible for him to know them. But now, the Xueqi clan had joined Lin Ling's side. Son of the devil, son of the devil. All the experts shouted. The voices of people like the Flying Dragon Organization and the Fuxing Manor were the loudest. This was because they knew that things were getting troublesome. With the help of the experts on Lin Ling's side, it would be very difficult for them to destroy the Blood Skull King's fragments in a short period of time. No, not in a short period of time. They were afraid that they couldn't do it anymore. If all of them were here and not injured, they might be able to destroy the Blood Skull King's fragments in a month's time. But with the current people, it was absolutely impossible. Therefore, everyone hated Lin Ling. Lin Ling's strength was not as strong as theirs, but he had stopped them at the critical moment, which was even more terrible than a fatal blow. Most importantly, Lin Ling was very cunning. Although he had so many experts to help him, he had come alone at the beginning, which made everyone careless and let them see him stalling for time. Kill him. Duan Wuhan's heart was full of shame. If it weren't for his confidence, this situation wouldn't have happened. Kill, 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 kill. Chapter 34-47. The martial god had arrived. Please, senior. In the face of Duan Wuhan's fury, Lin Ling just smiled casually. Ha ha ha. In the sky, the 9th god Eye and the other experts laughed and rushed down, erupting with powerful forces to clash with Duan Wuhan's group. The 9th god Eye was also the happiest. After being trapped for so many years, he could finally take revenge today. Therefore, he was extremely merciless, killing a large number of Duan family experts. Senior 9th, your great enemy, Flame Emperor, is over there. At this moment, Lin Ling said something at an inappropriate time. On Duan Wuhan's side, an old man's expression changed greatly, and then he glared hatefully at Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling just spread out his hands and showed an innocent look, as if to say, I know you hate me, but you can't kill me. Flame Emperor. The 9th god Eye immediately locked onto Flame Emperor, because Flame Emperor was the one he wanted to kill the most. Son of Demon, you and I cannot live under the same sky. Flame Emperor roared, no longer daring to play with the Divine Mountain, and fled into the distance. The 9th god Eye followed closely. Today, he only needed to face Flame Emperor, so he had to kill him. Because the other experts on Duan Wuhan's side would be dealt with by the Creation Alliance. A fierce battle broke out on the Divine Mountain. Blood spilled on the ground and was absorbed by the divine mountain. You guys work harder, the Blood Skull King is about to revive. While everyone was fighting, Lin Ling's indifferent voice occasionally floated out. This made Duan Wuhan and the others even more furious. Moreover, because they were anxious to destroy the Blood Skull King's fragments, they could not display their strength and were forced to retreat by the experts of the Creation Alliance. Lin Ling stood next to the Blood Skull King, a cold smile on his face. However, he was also surprised by the battle in Martial Ancestor's world. He could not get involved in this kind of battle unless he stepped into the Martial Ancestor realm. Then, he stared at the She-Ghost clan and was secretly surprised. The She-Ghost clan had sent out all puppets. They seemed to be inanimate objects, but each puppet had intelligence. It was extremely strange. Moreover, these puppets' fighting strength was extremely tyrannical. Crack, crack. After a full hour, the crisp sound of bones breaking finally rang out. Next to Lin Ling, the gigantic blood skeleton slowly stood up. It was even bigger than before because all the skeletons had been absorbed by the Blood Skeleton King. At this moment, he had most likely transformed into the Blood Skull Emperor. A ferocious aura emanated from the Blood Skull Emperor, causing everyone to tremble with fear. The battle on the Divine Mountain came to a complete halt. The huge Blood Skull King stared at Duan Wuhan and the others with its empty eye sockets, making them swallow their saliva with difficulty. They knew that the battle to the death had arrived. The previous Blood Skull King was already so difficult to deal with. How powerful would the resurrected Blood Skull Emperor be? It was simply unimaginable. Their fate seemed to be total annihilation. Ka. The Blood Skull King suddenly disappeared and turned into a bloody light, rushing towards Duan Wuhan and the others. In mid-air, a huge skeleton fist smashed down. The Blood Skull didn't attack Lin Ling and the others. Instead, they took the initiative to attack Duan Wuhan and the others. Rumble. After the resurrection, the Blood Skull King was much more powerful than before. When the hard skeleton fist smashed down, not many people could withstand it. Immediately, half of the experts of the Fu Xing Manor were killed. Retreat! Ningbo Tao shouted at the crowd. He was already planning to leave the Divine Mountain. Everyone felt as if their hearts were being cut by a knife. They had sacrificed so much and so many people had died. Were they going to return empty-handed? Wuhan, you can't even do such a small thing. You disappoint me. However, at this moment, an old voice suddenly floated in the air. As soon as this voice came out, everyone felt as if flowers were blooming and withering, as if they were going to die of old age. It was a feeling of loneliness and helplessness. Even though the experts on the Divine Mountain were in the Martial Ancestor realm and had seen countless deaths, they were still affected by this voice. Ancestor! Duan Wuhan was stunned at first, and then he shouted in surprise. Ancestor! The experts of the Flying Dragon organization were also overjoyed. The Duan family was the #1 family in the ultimate world. Behind them was one of the top 10 martial gods in the 9 prefectures. Furthermore, this person was ranked very high among the top 10 martial gods. This was why the Duan family called him the Ancestor. This meant that a martial god had arrived. Even the giant Blood Skull King was looking into the distance with its empty eye sockets. The sky in the distance was still a starry world. However, ripples began to appear like the growth rings of a tree, spreading out layer by layer. Heavenly chakra. Some experts mumbled to themselves. They had heard of the Duan family's ancestors' talent. It was said that this was the talent of a god. The life chakra that could control thousands of lives and strengthen one's body, making one indestructible. Endless life chakra bloomed in the sky like a flower blooming continuously. However, it was extremely sacred, and the light of treasure soared into the sky. At the center of the life chakra, a white figure walked out. It was as if he was walking in his own garden. Although his pace was not fast, he instantly appeared in front of everyone. This was a man wearing a white robe with a head of flowing white hair. He looked to be in his 40s and was extremely handsome. The white robe fluttered along with the life chakra, giving people the feeling of a god. His indifferent eyes looked at the sacred mountain, like an ancient well without any ripples. It was as if nothing in the world could move him. Duan lineage martial god. One of the top 10 martial gods of the 9 regions. All the experts on the sacred mountain, whether they were friends or foes, held their breaths at this moment. For them, the martial god of the 9 regions brought them too much pressure. And this was the #1 person below the god level. Ancestor. Duan Wuhan quickly knelt down, not daring to look at the white-haired man. The man nodded. His eyes swept across the sacred mountain and also passed over Lin Ling. Of course, he only glanced at Lin Ling slightly. Most of his attention was still on the Blood Skull King. Obviously, he seemed to know Lin Ling because Lin Ling had once destroyed a god. However, he did not care about Lin Ling. To be able to let him look at Lin Ling was a great blessing. Because other experts, even the 9-lantern fish, were not qualified for him to look at. Blood Skull King. The man let out a cold voice. He stretched out his palm and circles of ripples spread out. Kaka. The Blood Skull King obviously knew that the white-haired man was the real enemy. Although it was very close to the martial god level, it was still a demigod. It seemed to be a difference of a few words, but in fact, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. As long as it did not become a god, everything was fleeting. Bang! The Blood Skull King stomped on the sacred mountain, causing it to shake violently. Then, it rushed into the sky and fought the white-haired man. Time like a painting. Chapter 34-48. Retreat. Looking from a distance, one tall and one short, one big and one small, there seemed to be no suspense in the battle. However, when the huge skeleton emperor's fist collided with the white-haired man's fist, blood spurted out, and the skeleton emperor was smashed back to the sacred mountain. The entire sacred mountain was filled with dust. Duan Wuhan and the others smiled excitedly. The ancestor was really powerful. Picturesque landscape. At this moment, the white-haired man spat out a sentence and punched out again. A miracle had appeared. Hundreds of flowers bloomed around the originally lonely divine mountain. Countless plants grew. This was no longer a barren land. It was simply a world full of life. What a terrifying means. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. However, the blood skeleton emperor was still unafraid of death. As soon as it hit the ground, it immediately rushed to the sky and collided with the white-haired man's fist. Rumble! When the two fists collided, the white-haired man's fist hit the blood skeleton emperor's arm, and cracks immediately appeared on the blood skeleton emperor's arm. Previously, when all the powerhouses joined forces, countless people had died, and they had exhausted all their strength to crack the blood skeleton emperor's arm. But the Duan lineage martial god only needed 2 punches. Lin Ling. Retreat immediately. The 10 martial gods of 9 regions are not people we can resist. While Lin Ling was surprised by the strength of the 2 martial gods, the voice of 9 Lanterns fish Lu Chen came. Leave. The woman of the Xueqi tribe also said coldly. Obviously, they knew that the situation was hopeless. If they were late to escape, it was possible that they would be wiped out. Martial god powerhouses. Lin Ling clenched his fists. In this battle, he had grasped the right time, the right place, and the right people. He could have killed all his enemies, but who knew that the arrival of the martial god would reverse the situation? In the face of powerful strength, no matter if it was a conspiracy or an overt plot, everything was useless. You want to leave? Ningbo Tao and the others obviously knew what Lin Ling was thinking. Although they could not stop Lin Ling and the others from joining forces, as long as they could buy some time, and when the Duan lineage martial god killed the blood skeleton emperor, Lin Ling and the others would die. Ha ha ha. When they thought of this, they couldn't help but laugh. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. At this moment, Lin Ling must be in great pain. After all, he was supposed to win. Boom. However, just as they were about to attack Lin Ling and the others, a huge skeleton fist smashed down. The experts of the Flying Dragon organization were unable to react in time, and half of them were instantly killed. Rivers of blood flowed, and all of it was absorbed by the divine mountain. Then, in front of Lin Ling, a tall blood skull emperor stood there, as if its head was the sky and its feet were on the ground. Everyone was stunned. The blood skull emperor was actually helping Lin Ling. This was too enviable. Even Lin Ling was a little surprised. He hadn't expected the blood skeleton to have intelligence. Previously, he had helped the blood skeleton, and now the blood skeleton was helping him, Lin Ling. Crack crack. The blood skeleton's body was full of cracks, but it was like an invincible warrior, and it still did not fall. Moreover, it turned to look at Lin Ling, and its empty eye sockets quietly looked at Lin Ling. For some reason, Lin Ling felt that it seemed to be saying something. However, Lin Ling did not understand what it was saying. After all, he was not a skeleton. Kunlun. On the contrary, the vine on Lin Ling's left arm seemed to have come alive, and it made a sound, and it kept shouting anxiously at Lin Ling. Lin Ling and Lil Kunlun had a tacit understanding, so Lin Ling understood what Lil Kunlun was saying. His expression kept changing. Let's go, the Blood Skull Emperor can't stop the martial god. If we don't leave now, we will all be wiped out. Lin Ling shouted loudly, and then he shot into the sky. Ancestor, don't let him escape. How could Duan Wuhan let Lin Ling escape? He also shouted, 60% of our Duan family's people are dead, and it's all Lin Ling's fault. However, the white-haired man stood quietly in the sky and did not move. He said indifferently, don't worry about ants, the divine treasury is our priority now. Obviously, he knew that it would be difficult for him to kill Lin Ling and the others if the Blood Skull Emperor did not die. Even if he could kill them, the Blood Skull Emperor would also kill the Duan family's people, and that was not what he wanted to see. For him, the divine treasury was the most important thing. He would have plenty of opportunities to kill ants like the Creation Alliance in the future. Go! At this moment, Lin Ling shouted again, and the experts of the Great Devil Sect became restless. Crack, crack, crack. However, the Blood Skull Emperor immediately blocked them, and it seemed that if they dared to move, they would all kill them. The experts of the Great Devil Sect did not dare to move. Let them escape. After all, the divine treasury is in our hands. That's right. Ha ha ha. Our original goal was the divine treasury. As long as we get it, everything else is trivial. There will be plenty of opportunities to kill the demon's son in the future. Then the experts laughed. Although they could not kill the demon's son, they wanted to annoy him. After all, they had won. In the end, the divine treasury belonged to them. Bastard! At this moment, Lin Ling led 9 Lantern Fish, Lu Chen, and the others into the distance. 9 Lantern Fish, Lu Chen, cursed angrily. If the Duan lineage martial god had not come, they would not have run away. Damn it! This was originally a battlefield for martial ancestors, and the Duan lineage martial god had suddenly joined in. How shameless! Not long after, the 9th god's eye caught up with Lin Ling and the others. He had killed the Flame Emperor, and when he found out what had happened, his face turned extremely ugly. Lin Ling did not say a word and led them all the way forward. Finally, they arrived at the periphery of the Starry Sky Forest. Lin Ling stopped and looked indifferently into the distance. The divine treasury is not that easy to take. If we don't leave, we will all die. After looking for a while, Lin Ling said softly. He was still in shock. Lin Ling, what do you mean? 9 Lantern Fish, Lu Chen, was puzzled. The real divine bone is about to be unearthed. Lin Ling turned to look at him and said word by word. This was what Lil Kunlun had told him, and Lil Kunlun had found out from the Blood Skull Emperor. The Blood Skull Emperor had asked Lin Ling and the others to leave immediately. What? Everyone was immediately shocked. The Blood Skull Emperor was not a divine bone? Such a terrifying existence was not a divine bone? Moreover, the treasure in the lake was not a divine bone. The real divine bone was only unearthed now? This news was earth-shattering. Everyone was even more in awe of the divine realm. The real show has only just begun. All of them will die. No more than 10 people will survive. Lin Ling said again, his eyes cold. The 9th god's eye and the others immediately gasped. They were even more curious about the divine bone that had yet to be unearthed. At this moment, the battle on the divine mountain was still ongoing. The huge Blood Skull Emperor could not stop the martial god at all and had his arms broken. Duan Wuhan and the others kept laughing like victorious generals. Some of them were even more excited. They waved at the Blood Skull Emperor and said, "Little skeleton, aren't you very good at fighting? Come on, come on." They had suffered too much before, so they were venting their grievances at this moment. Ka ka ka. Even though the tall Blood Skull Emperor had lost his arms, he still stood tall like a pine tree, guarding the divine mountain like a giant. Chapter 3449. What a terrifying sea of skeletons. The white-haired man looked at Blood Skull Emperor indifferently, shook his head, and said, "You are a figure of the era of the gods, but history has changed, and the gods are gone. Now it is our era. I see that you are a proud person, so I will give you a chance. Surrender to me, and I will spare your life. Atop the divine mountain, Blood Skull Emperor quietly looked at the sky, not making any sound. However, its empty eye sockets revealed a trace of disdain. The white-haired man immediately nodded. He stretched out his hand, and circles of ripples spread out. Then, he suddenly clenched his fist and punched down. Time chakra. Layers upon layers of space exploded, and with the fist as the center, it collapsed in all directions. The Blood Skull Emperor was still indifferent. Under the punch, he was smashed into pieces, and countless bone fragments sputtered in all directions. Dead. Duan Wuhan and the others smiled. This time, the Blood Skull Emperor was finally dead. Go and take all the treasures. After killing the Blood Skull Queen, the white-haired man's expression remained calm. Yes. Everyone was overjoyed. Finally, no one could stop them. They shot to the top of the mountain and then looked at the ancient lake excitedly. On the ancient lake, there was a small boat with a treasure chest on it, giving off a mysterious aura. Divine bone, divinity in one step. Duan Wuhan and the others licked their lips and were about to make a move. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The entire sacred mountain suddenly shook. Blood gushed out from the ground and flowed towards the ancient lake. Terrifying. His blood was flowing backward. Gulyalu. The ancient lake at the peak of the godly mountain quietly turned the color of blood. Ancestor, what's going on? Duan Wuhan and the others quickly looked at the Duan lineage martial god. Uneasiness rose in their hearts. The white-haired man also frowned. Even with his experience, he couldn't tell what was going to happen. Suddenly, he shouted anxiously, "Leave immediately! Gulyalu!" At the same time, a skeletal arm quietly stretched out from the bottom of the ancient lake. This skeletal arm was completely black and emitted a blinding luster. This caused many people's pupils to constrict. Could that be the divine bone? Rumble. Finally, a change occurred. The entire divine mountain seemed to be overturned. A large number of strange black plants rushed into the sky. As if they had been covered in dust for countless years, they were frantically growing. These plants were also extremely ferocious. Their branches and leaves were like skeletons, and their flowers were like heads. Most importantly, there were so many of these plants that not only did they drown the entire godly mountain, but even the ground near the godly mountain was covered in black skeletal vines. In just a few breaths of time, the ground had already turned into a black ocean, as if countless black skeletons were piled up there. These skeletal vines eventually turned into a black sea that drowned everything. Not good. The white-robed man shouted and stretched out his left hand. A blue light appeared and turned into a vortex. At the same time, he stretched out his right hand and a red light followed. The two rays of light were combined by him. Celestial chakra. An earth-shattering voice floated out from his mouth. He had obviously sensed that something was wrong. As for the powerhouses on Divine Mountain, their faces had already turned pale from fright. In front of him was no longer a divine mountain. It was simply a sea of skeletons. The sea was endless, devouring the heavens and earth. Duan Wuhan, Ningbo Tao, and the rest were all trembling. Suddenly, they thought of Lin Ling and the rest from before. Lin Ling and the rest were so fast that they actually escaped from this terrifying sea of skeletons. Damn it! At this moment, everyone started cursing out loud. Previously, they were still proudly clamoring because they had won this battle. Who knew that they were the real losers? What is a mere sea of skeletons? I will stop him. A powerhouse of the Great Devil Sect roared and summoned a large number of demon beasts to rush forward. However, the black skeletons flooded over and the powerhouse immediately disappeared without a trace. He was directly submerged and could not be stopped. Most likely, his corpse was not left behind. On Divine Mountain, the powerhouses were even more panicked. However, the black plants on the ground grew crazily. Black light soared into the sky and immediately drowned them. Any method was useless. Could it be that the so-called god bone is actually not an inanimate object? The white-haired man floated in the sky and suddenly guessed something in his heart. The god bone had been unearthed. This did not mean that a treasure had been unearthed, but that a certain god from the god's era had been resurrected. Rumble! The endless black skeletons began to flood toward the white-haired man at an extremely fast speed. Celestial chakra. The white-haired man knew that there was no way to escape. He held the horrifying fate wheel in his hand and rushed forward. Looking from afar, the scene was extremely spectacular. Countless black skeletons formed an ocean and rushed toward the man. At the moment of collision, a horrifying force burst out and the forest of stars seemed to be destroyed. In a place far away, Lin Ling and the rest looked at this scene with pale faces. It felt as if a man was fighting against heaven. No matter how powerful a man was, he was nothing but a speck of dust in front of heaven. The martial god of Duan Meridian is so powerful. It seems that he has blocked the Sea of Skeletons. Could it be that the Sea of Skeletons are the skeletons of the fallen gods from the gods' era? What is ahead is simply forbidden. Nine Lanterns Fish and Lu Chen said in horror. Rumble. At this moment, the white-haired man held the celestial chakra in his hand and resisted the Sea of Skeletons. The rotating chakra in his hand emitted a light and blocked the Sea of Skeletons. However, he didn't look surprised at all. Instead, he looked more and more dignified. Looking up, he saw an even larger Sea of Skeletons coming from the horizon. In the Sea of Skeletons, an ancient giant tree formed by skeletons grew up. On the trunk of the tree, there were human heads flowing. The branches were thigh bones. There were also heads blooming on the leaves. This tree was simply the most ancient forbidden in the 9 regions. Rumble. A new wave of skeletons came, which made the white-haired man know that he had lost the upper hand. I asked the heavens, where is the chakra? The white-haired man murmured to himself. A tree ring appeared on his chest and he patted his chest with both hands. Boom. Circles of light burst out and pushed back the Sea of Skeletons. However, in just a moment, the Sea of Skeletons came again. However, the white-haired man had disappeared. In the distant sky, he stood there quietly with a gloomy face. Previously, he had tried his best to escape. At this moment, he knew that he had come here in vain. He was holding 2 people in each hand. They were Duan Wuhan and Ningbo Tao. Today, all the heroes of the 9 regions were here to seize the divine treasure. However, they were all wiped out. Only the 3 of them were left alive. It had to be said that this was shocking news. Martial ancestor. There were even peak martial ancestor experts. Unfortunately, none of them were left alive. If this news spread to the 9 regions, the entire 9 regions would be in turmoil. Let's go. The white-haired man watched for a moment and finally disappeared. Rumble. Chapter 3450. The mysterious intruder from the cave. In the distance, Lin Ling and the others didn't dare to stay and retreated. Today, they hadn't obtained any treasures. But they didn't care, because compared to Duan Wuhan's group, Lin Ling's group hadn't been completely wiped out. The treasures of a god were indeed not so easy to obtain. Everyone hurried on with their journey without stopping for a full 3 days. They only rested when the rumbling sounds in the distance became softer. But looking at the distant sky, there was still a tinge of black that made their hearts palpitate. Luckily, Lin Ling, if you hadn't reminded us, we would have been completely wiped out today. After resting for a while, Lu Chen of the 9 Lanterns Fish sighed as he looked at Lin Ling. He had an extremely good relationship with Lin Ling. In the past, Lin Ling had saved his wife, White Fox, and after that, he had repeatedly helped Lin Ling. But he hadn't expected that in such a short period of time, that Qingzhou Jr. had entered the strongest world of the 9 provinces. Moreover, he was extremely famous. If this had happened a few decades ago, he would never have imagined it. It was little Kunlun who reminded me. Lin Ling still felt some lingering fear, but he still smiled. Don't think so much. In any case, we're still alive, so we've profited. The 9th god, I laughed heartily. But his words were indeed true. The other factions had been completely wiped out, but they were still alive. This was definitely a great fortune amidst the misfortune. Around them, the woman in the standard robe glanced at Lin Ling and said, I have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Lin Ling, if you meet Prince Emogene, tell him to return to the Tin Ghost race. I have important matters to discuss with him. This woman was related to Prince Emogene of the God Slayer Alliance, so she had helped Lin Ling before. Her only regret was that she had come to the Starry Sky Forest for nothing. However, she didn't blame anyone because the calamity from before was obvious to all. Okay. Lin Ling immediately nodded. The woman nodded. She rode on the phoenix and disappeared with a large number of puppets. Lin Ling, it's time for me to leave. As soon as the woman left, Nine-Lantern Fish Lu Chen stood up and smiled at Lin Ling. Lin Ling also knew that Senior Lu Chen was the leader of the Creation Alliance and had a lot of things to do, so he immediately bowed. The waters of the final world are very deep. There are many divine knights. Lin Ling, don't lose to them. I wish you good luck. A huge nine-lantern fish appeared in the sky and flew away with the experts of the Creation Alliance. Those experts also waved goodbye to Lin Ling. Obviously, after several encounters, they were already familiar with Lin Ling. Furthermore, they were looking forward to Lin Ling's complete growth and becoming the ultimate ruler of this world. Let's go too. After everyone left, Lin Ling looked at the ninth god eye. The ninth god eye was undoubtedly in a good mood, because more than half of his enemies were dead. He took the criminals and followed Lin Ling into the distance. Following the ninth god eye, Lin Ling felt depressed because he still hadn't found the Mahanata mantra. Not long after, Lin Ling and the ninth god eye temporarily settled down in an ancient cave. After all, there was still a year until the new disciple trial, so Lin Ling couldn't be bothered to run around. All the criminals returned to the periphery of the starry sky forest. Lin Ling used this time to cultivate and raise his cultivation level. At present, he was still a 5th stage saint, and his strongest talent was the 2nd grade spacetime god eye. However, his heavenly dragonbone, great nether wind dragon, and realm-devouring beast all had extraordinary potential, surpassing the spacetime god eye. It was just that he hadn't encountered a suitable opportunity to raise his talent yet. While he was cultivating, a strange feeling suddenly surged into his mind. Kill. 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 The scene that appeared in his mind was the great war of gods and demons. Countless ancient gods clashed against each other. Fight for the world consciousness. Because of your appearance, the order of this world has been disrupted. The world consciousness does not permit your existence. The world consciousness wants to destroy this world. The great war of gods and demons was extremely intense. Countless gods fell and countless demon gods were defeated. Blood flowed like rivers. Corpses piled up. The 9 provinces and the myriad worlds were destroyed. This war lasted for 10,000 years, and in the end, countless gods and demon gods fell. Only then did the war gradually die out. The destroyed 9 provinces and the myriad world should have become a land of death, but for some reason, this world was like bamboo shoots after the rain, and life once more began to spread. All of this contained the most profound order of the world. The great Tao, origin, intent, and even primal chaos. This was the most mysterious existence in the world. Lin Ling quietly watched all of this like a spectator. The intensity of the war made his blood boil. The deathly stillness after the war made him feel depressed. However, the chance of survival that followed made him understand something. Destroying the world was, in fact, creating the world. This seemed to be what the world consciousness wanted to say. The world consciousness. What is this? Lin Ling muttered to himself. At this moment, he did not realize that his soul power was crazily increasing. It gradually reached 12,000 steps. Your comprehension ability is indeed extraordinary. At this moment, a cold and emotionless voice rang in Lin Ling's mind. This made Lin Ling's expression change, and he subconsciously opened his eyes. Unknowingly, a man was standing in front of him. This man was tall and sturdy, and he wore a black armor. He stood there quietly, as if he was an unreasonable great Tao power. When did this person appear in the cave? Senior Ninth did not notice? Lin Ling was shocked. Then, he realized that there was a small skeleton half the height of a human standing beside this man. At this moment, this skeleton was quietly looking at Lin Ling. Those empty eye sockets gave Lin Ling a familiar feeling. But at this moment, he could not remember where he had seen this small skeleton. Lin Ling did not know whether this person was an enemy or a friend, but even if he was an enemy, with his current strength, he could not resist. So he asked, "Senior, those illusions were brought by you?" "That's right." The man nodded. His whole person was like a puppet. His voice was very cold, but there was no emotion in it. "However, I did not expect that you would be able to comprehend something in that illusion. However, this can be considered as your opportunity. You saved it, so I should return the favor to you. However, I discovered that you have the auras of several old friends. It seems that the karma between us is not shallow, the man said again. Lin Ling was confused for a moment. Saved it? He could not help but look at the small skeleton. Suddenly, a terrible thought arose in his mind. Could it be that the small skeleton was the blood skeleton emperor? Moreover, it was not dead. Then, this person in front of him. Chapter 3451. Steel Slaying God Emperor. At that moment, the man seemed to know Lin Ling's thoughts. Hence, he went straight to the point and said, I am Emperor God Zhang Gang. I have sealed myself for countless years. A while ago, the seal was just released. Of course, this is not the most important thing. It is that you have the aura of Sword Demon and that annoying old man. Hence, this is one of the main reasons why I came to see you. Lin Ling suddenly understood. The Sword Demon was obviously referring to his sword hilt. As for the old man, he was probably Xiao Yu's grandfather. Who would have thought that Xiao Yu's grandfather's background was even greater than he had imagined? Apart from that, you also have a very surprising thing, which is the vine on your arm. Meanwhile, the man spoke once more. Little Kunlun. Lin Ling was alarmed. He looked at his left arm and realized that little Kunlun had already woken up. Its vines were swaying as though it was sizing up the man. The man was also looking at the vine. His emotionless eyes changed, revealing a trace of emotion, a complex emotion. Alas! In the end, the man sighed softly and said, It hasn't woken up yet. I'll teach it a divine ability, the extreme imprisoning divine mark. This will greatly increase its strength and allow it to undergo a transformation. Hearing this, Lin Ling was immediately overjoyed. Because little Kunlun was already extremely powerful. If it could transform again, then what kind of limit could its strength reach? In fact, this was originally his. However, the man added another sentence and then pointed at little Kunlun with his right hand. A black light pattern shrouded Mini Kunlun, and Mini Kunlun instantly became dispirited as the vines sank. Lin Ling couldn't help but worry. Don't worry, it's just absorbing the fading memories. After he finished speaking, his eyebrows twitched, and the tyrannical song sword behind Lin Ling floated out. This sword has the power to slay gods. Unfortunately, the missing broken swords have not been gathered. Moreover, I think that it will be very difficult for you to obtain the remaining broken swords. Let me activate the full power of this sword hilt for you. The man quietly looked at the sword hilt, as if he was reminiscing. Countless years ago, this sword's name had once shaken the era of deities, but in the end, it ended up in such a state, making him sigh greatly. The man's eyes emitted a black light that enveloped the tyrannical song sword. The tyrannical song sword immediately trembled before it regained its tranquility. I've already activated all the ancestral energy in this sword for you. But how much you can use will depend on you. Remember, the master of this sword is extremely terrifying. Hence, this sword has its own pride and divine heart. If you want to obtain its help, you have to subdue it. If you can make it submit, you will be able to activate all the ancestral energy in it. In addition, the ancestral energy in this devil sword is even more terrifying compared to ordinary ancestral energy. Of course, if you can find the remaining broken swords, you will have the power to kill immortals and destroy gods. Ancestral power. Lin Ling sucked in a cold breath. Progenitor's power. This was the power controlled by the martial ancestors. It was extremely powerful. And this sword hilt had actually activated all of its ancestral power. However, this sword hilt was also a double-edged sword. Wanting to use his ancestral power was also very difficult. Thinking of this, Lin Ling felt a little depressed. He had two powerful techniques. Killing martial ancestors and destroying gods was as easy as flipping his hand. However, these techniques had side effects. One was the sword hilt, and the other was the True Inheritance Dark Sword. If he wanted to activate the True Inheritance Dark Sword to its limit, Lin Ling would have to step into the martial ancestor realm. In the past, Li Xiaoyao was already in the martial ancestor realm. With the True Inheritance Dark Sword, he rose to prominence in an era and was known as a genius. The divine weapon you have is also very powerful. Unfortunately, it's an acquired divine weapon. In terms of potential, it can't compare to the Sword Demon's sword. As if he had guessed Lin Ling's thoughts, the man suddenly said. Acquired and innate were only one word apart, but the difference was like heaven and earth. The innate divine weapons were all left behind from the era of gods. Of course, although you have many techniques left behind from the era of gods, there's an aura in your body that even I can't see through. Grasp it well. In the future, you will find that this power might be able to dominate the entire world. The man spoke again, and his expression turned serious at this moment. Lin Ling's expression changed slightly. He suddenly guessed that the power was the Chaos Divine formula. Currently, he had opened 5 dantians. If he opened 9 dantians, perhaps something would happen. All right, I've said what I should say and returned the favor. Now I have to go. At this moment, the man turned around and left with a little skeleton. Senior, wait. Do you know the Maha Mantra? Lin Ling hurriedly called out to him. Maha Mantra? The man stopped in his tracks and frowned. Then, he smiled and said, not many people know this mantra. Since you're able to come up with this mantra, someone must have entrusted it to you. I know this mantra. It's useless to you, but it's useful to some people. It's used to check the will of the world. Since you mentioned it, I'll pass it to you. Then when the man saw Lin Ling nodding, he smiled again and drew in the air with his right hand. Ancient divine language appeared, and it was extremely dazzling. Then, it turned into a piece of black cloth. There were many words on the cloth, as if it was a Buddhist mantra. With your current strength, you can't peek at the Maha Mantra. So, you just need to pass it to someone who needs it. Then, the man pushed the cloth to Lin Ling. Lin Ling received it and hurriedly put it away. Then he asked curiously, Senior, what is the will of the world? Previously, during the war between the gods, he had also heard this phrase. Now that he heard it again, he felt that the will of the world seemed to be very important. You don't need to know now. You only need to know that the ancient war between the gods was caused by the will of the world. The man looked at the top of the mountain. It was as if he could see through the mountain top and see the endless starry sky, as if he could see the war between the gods a long, long time ago. Okay, I'm leaving. Don't let down the potential in your body. You have several great talents. Except for the God Eye's talent that is more average, the other talents have endless potential. Of course, the power in your body is the strongest existence. So, for now you should focus on increasing your strength. Perhaps in the future, we will meet again. Besides that, there are more gods in this world than you can imagine. Moreover, you have the aura of a few of them. That means you've met a few of them. Fortunately, all of them are very friendly to you. However, not every god will be friendly to you. You should be more careful next time. Okay, I should go too. The man looked deeply at Lin Ling, turned around, and walked out of the cave. The little skeleton who was following beside the man suddenly waved at Lin Ling. This made Lin Ling stunned. He never thought that the blood skeleton emperor, who made people's scalps tingle, would be so cute. Chapter 3452. The trial was over. In his memories, other than Xiao Yu's grandfather, there weren't many people he couldn't see through. As for Lei Gong, Lin Ling had never met him, so he shouldn't count. Suddenly, Lin Ling recalled a person he had met a long, long time ago. It was a blue-robed youth who also possessed one of the 6 great god eyes of the universe. It was him who had introduced Lin Ling to the martial god barracks of the Azure province. Speaking of people he couldn't see through, perhaps that blue-robed youth was one of them. Although that youth also possessed one of the 6 great god eyes of the universe and his potential was the same as Lin Ling's, who could guarantee that the youth's strongest ability was his eyes? The world of the 9 provinces is filled with boundless mysteries. Even Li Xiaoyao of the past was only a junior in front of these gods. Sigh. Lin Ling could not help but sigh. The arrival of the man from before had undoubtedly opened Lin Ling's eyes. It made him feel that the current situation was just the tip of the iceberg. At this moment, a figure rushed into the cave and stared at Lin Ling in shock. Lin Ling, what happened? This person was the 9th god eye. He had been cultivating outside the cave when he sensed a mysterious ripple. What terrified him was that he couldn't move even if he wanted to. After all, he was a peak martial ancestor, a demigod existence. Thus, after everything had returned to normal, he had rushed into the cave to see if Lin Ling was all right. I'm fine. A god called the Steel-Slaying God Emperor came earlier. Lin Ling chuckled and then told him what had happened. Of course, he concealed many things, only saying that the other party had come to thank him. Chi. The ninth god I immediately sucked in a cold breath of air. That terrifying existence that had killed countless martial ancestors had actually come. Moreover, he had come to thank Linling? The ninth god I couldn't help but feel envious. In the current 9 provinces and the myriad worlds, there were very few people who had the fortune to meet a god. Even he, the ninth god I, had only heard of them and had never seen one. If he knew that not only had Linling seen them, but he had even seen a few of them, he would probably be so shocked that his jaw would drop to the ground. Truly a fellow that makes one's eyes red with envy. I've heard that those who have met gods will have a bit of divine light protecting them. This sort of divine light doesn't seem to be of much help, but at a critical moment, it can change one's fate and reverse one's luck, the ninth god I said. This was also why all the martial artists in the world wanted to meet gods. Linling nodded. No wonder that man was able to sense the divine aura on his body. It must be because of this. Don't worry, he has already left the starry sky forest. So, let's think about what to do next. Senior Ninth, I will be in seclusion for a period of time until the end of the trial. Where do you plan to go? Linling asked. The ninth god I seemed to be staying by Linling's side, but in reality, he was protecting Linling. Now that he heard that Linling was leaving, he smiled. I should also leave. As for where I'll go, I should wander the 9 provinces as I wish. Although I killed the Flame Emperor, I still have many enemies to kill. Very well. If Senior Ninth needs anything from this junior, feel free to come to the final world, Snow City, and find me. Okay, until we meet again. The ninth god I smiled and left the cave. Linling sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. He first glanced at little Kunlun and found that it was still sleeping, so he decided not to disturb it. Instead, he began to pay attention to the tyrannical Song Sword. This sword could stimulate the power of ancestors. It had clearly become one of Linling's strongest trump cards. Moreover, the limit of this sword was to slay immortals and gods. This made Linling even more expectant of the remaining broken swords. While he was comprehending the tyrant Song Sword, a mysterious power suddenly came from the sword and enveloped Linling's entire body. After this power entered Linling's body, it immediately rushed to the space-time divine steel, causing the colorful flames to surge. Linling was shocked. He then guessed that this was left behind by that man. He had left behind a divine power to help him stimulate the potential of the space-time divine eye. And this power was sacred and ancient, as if it could do anything. It gave Linling a feeling of defying the heavens and changing his fate. In the depths of his dantian, the space-time divine eye had risen by another level, reaching the ultimate third-grade desolate body. Moreover, during this process, Linling's cultivation had also risen, reaching the 6th stage of the Saint Realm. All 5 of his dantians had reached perfection. In the end, the divine energy disappeared. After an unknown amount of time, Linling opened his eyes, and an excited look appeared on his face. His strength had increased by more than 40%. It had to be known that after the battle not long ago, he deeply felt his own insignificance. But now, he was one step closer to the world of gods. Of course, compared to the increase in realm, Linling was the happiest about the improvement of the space-time divine eye. This was because increasing the realm was not difficult, but increasing the ultimate desolate body was a headache. Unfortunately, the dragon bone and the great netherwind dragon required more precious dragon pearls. Otherwise, he could have cultivated the 6th arrow of the great solar calamity bow. In addition, the realm-swallowing beast's talent was also extraordinary, but he had not found a suitable way to improve it. Ka. Linling stood up. An ancient aura spread out from his body. He was like a god or an emperor. With a step, he had the power to awaken tens of thousands of creatures. This was the power of the universe's great Tao. However, it was very weak on Linling's body. Then, Linling walked out of the cave. His eyes looked at the dark starry sky, and his mind recalled bits and pieces of the past. The ancient face sect of the Heaven Mystics Kingdom, the 7 profound martial house of the Rainforest Holy Land, the Qing province and so on. Without knowing when, Linling had already spent countless years learning martial arts. Thinking back, all of this had not been easy. And Linling's accumulated martial arts foundation was also vast and boundless. If anyone could obtain Linling's memories, they could instantly become a powerhouse. And this martial arts foundation was precious. It was an indispensable step in comprehending the universe's great Tao. Let's go back. Lin Ling stepped out and once again set foot on his journey. In the ancient starry sky forest, Lin Ling was like a lonely swordsman, moving forward on the lonely earth. Unknowingly, a year had passed. At the outermost periphery of the starry sky forest, an ancient god's transmission array appeared. This god's transmission array was extremely large, occupying several large mountains. This was the god's transmission array from the Snow Wind Academy. Obviously, the one-year trial for new students had ended. Mission complete. Good. We have a chance to become a student of the Divine Second Hall. Beneath the mountains, the powerhouses of the Snow Wind Academy were overjoyed. This nightmare was finally over. They knew that in this short year, they had suffered countless casualties. Especially the great battle in the depths of the starry sky forest. This had simply frightened them to death. Luckily, they could leave now. It could be said that besides a powerhouse on the level of the Dean, no one else would be able to touch the great battle in the depths of the starry sky forest. It's over. Chapter 3453. What a lucky guy. In the past year, each day felt like a year to them. Especially when they thought of the man in their class, Lin Ling, they had mixed feelings. If it wasn't for Lin Ling, they definitely wouldn't have been able to complete the mission. Zhuang Yanming and the rest also thought the same. They silently looked into the distance and sighed as they walked into the teleportation array. Do you think he's still alive? Someone suddenly said in a low voice, causing the surroundings to become very quiet. A few days ago, you all saw that there seemed to be a great battle in the depths and he seemed to have entered the depths. With his strength, sigh. Yes, I know that many experts have gathered in the depths. They are all looking for the sacred mountain because a friend of my father's was fated to participate in that operation. He even said to me that he would come and find me after the matter was over. But now, he has disappeared without a trace. Perhaps he has already fallen. That senior is at the peak of the martial ancestor realm. That means that he should have died in the depths. Chu Yun and the rest's faces dimmed. They all thought that Lin Ling was already dead. After all, the starry sky forest was one of the 7 forbidden lands in the 9 prefectures. It naturally had its terrifying aspects. Even martial ancestor realm experts didn't dare to move freely in this place, let alone Lin Ling who was at the sage stage. Then, the teleportation array bloomed with light and sent everyone back to the Snow Wind Academy. At this moment, the Snow Wind Academy was extremely lively. Because the freshman trial had ended, many of the students in this batch could enter the Shen Second Hall. Especially those who had obtained the Star Origin Stone, entering the Shen Second Hall was a certainty. Many experts of the Snow Wind City stood there quietly, smiling as they watched this scene. The freshman trial had actually attracted many of the big shots of the Snow Wind City. After a series of excited conversations, suddenly, many people looked at the teleportation array. Lin Ling, is he back? Someone said indifferently. Among the current freshmen, Lin Ling was undoubtedly the most eye-catching because before entering the starry sky forest, Lin Ling's arrogance was obvious to all. But now, it seemed that Lin Ling hadn't returned. What's the use of a guy who got in through the back door if he's not dead? At this moment, a young man laughed sinisterly. After he finished speaking, he looked at teacher Zhou Lin. Obviously, he was teacher Zhou Lin's student. Everyone suddenly laughed. Many people still regarded Lin Ling as trash who got in through the back door. Wait, he isn't someone who got in through the back door. Take back your words or don't blame me for being rude. But at this moment, another voice surprisingly, was Zhuang Yanming, Zhuang? Zhuang Yanming, don't you? Why are you? However, although I don't know what treasure that fellow used to curry favor with you, the fact that he's dead is an unchangeable fact. That's right. In the new student trial, there's only a slim chance of survival. Only those who are truly fearless can survive, and he obviously isn't one. Other than Zhuang Yanming's group, the rest looked down on Lin Ling. This made Zhuang Yanming and the rest furious because Lin Ling had saved their lives. Moreover, they had witnessed Lin Ling's strength. They were just about to speak. But at this moment, the teleportation device suddenly emitted a dazzling light. Then, a young man in a blue and white robe appeared. The young man carried a huge sword on his back and his face was calm. His eyes were different from the others. He wouldn't be shocked even if the sky collapsed. After he appeared, he wasn't as excited as the others. Instead, he had no reaction. It was as if he hadn't returned from the starry sky forest but had just returned from a trip home. He was Lin Ling. How is he still alive? He seemed to be alone in the starry sky forest. Looking at Lin Ling, all the freshmen widened their eyes. One should know that the freshman trial consisted of 100 people. Even so, many of them had died. However, Lin Ling was alone and he was still alive? He must be hiding somewhere. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to pass the trial. An expert said in disbelief. Moreover, he was extremely jealous in his heart. A bunch of ignorant fools. However, Zhuang Yanming and the rest looked at the freshmen with disdain. That was because only they knew how Lin Ling had survived in the outer region of the starry sky forest. He had become the leader of the rogues. However, they were also surprised that Lin Ling was still alive. After all, they knew that Lin Ling had entered the depths of the starry sky forest. A catastrophe had happened there and even a martial ancestor had fallen. However, Lin Ling had still come out alive. That was unbelievable. So powerful. Fairy Xian Yan and the rest looked at Lin Ling passionately. That was because Lin Ling appeared to be very calm, which was different from the other freshmen's excitement. From this point of view, it showed the difference between them. Lin Ling had entered the starry sky forest as if he was taking a stroll in his own backyard. His aura is different from ours. Although he hides it well, his experience and vicissitudes of life will still be revealed when he's not paying attention. Chu Yun also spoke up. She was a martial artist of the final world and also the descendant of a duke. Although she had fought many battles since she was a child, she naturally couldn't compare with Lin Ling in terms of life and death battles and great waves. After all, in the final world, due to the supervision of God, no martial artist dared to be too arrogant. It was not as cruel as the land of the 9 states. Earring, among us, you are the most similar to Lin Ling. You have that indescribable aura. Chu Yun looked at her and said. Earring was an assassin from the Flying Dragon organization. Naturally, she had experienced more than Chu Yun and the rest. However, Earring shook her head and said, I'm still not as good as him. Although she was an assassin from the Flying Dragon organization, she started from a small existence and gradually became famous in the land of the 9 states. However, Lin Ling was an even more terrifying existence. He also started from a small existence, even smaller than Earring. However, Lin Ling could already hold his own in the land of the 9 states. That was the difference between them. At this moment, Lin Ling did not pay attention to the others. Instead, his eyes fell on an old woman. Then he smiled and nodded. The old woman was delighted. She knew what Lin Ling meant. He must have found the Maha incantation. That meant that Lin Ling had completed the first trial mission that Lei Gong had arranged. This made her very surprised. After all, the other trial takers would need at least 10 years to complete the mission. However, Lin Ling did not even take 2 years. In addition to her, Song Qiri also smiled excitedly. The young master was indeed powerful. He had heard that many martial ancestors had gathered in the starry sky forest. Therefore, he had been worried about Lin Ling. However, he did not dare to interfere in the divine trials. Fortunately, the young master had returned safely. Brother Lin Ling. At the same time, Xiao Yu, Dou Kanying, and the others were also there. They all smiled excitedly. Lin Ling, you're still alive. What a lucky guy. However, at this moment, a cunning and mean voice suddenly sounded. It was teacher Zhou Lin. Chapter 3454. If you agree to bet, you must accept your loss. However, Lin Ling still ignored the crowd and looked at the sky with emotion. He wasn't lamenting the fact that he had survived a calamity, because he was already used to this kind of life. What he lamented was the difference between Miao Prefecture and the outside world. The order here was better, and the killing wasn't so obvious. Lin Ling, I'm talking to you. Can you hear me? When Zhou Lin saw that Lin Ling was ignoring him, he felt even more uncomfortable. In any case, He was a teacher, an emissary of God. However, in front of so many people, Lin Ling actually treated him like a passerby. No, he wasn't even qualified to be a passerby. This was because Lin Ling didn't even look at him. That's enough, Zhou Lin. Stop talking. At this moment, the vice principal spoke up for Lin Ling. After all, Lin Ling had completed the freshman trial. In addition, he guessed that Lin Ling's background wasn't small, so he would definitely speak up for Lin Ling. This made Zhou Lin even angrier. He couldn't help but glance at Siluan. When he saw the smile on Siluan's face, the fire of jealousy in his heart continued to burn. Teacher Siluan. He had been pursuing her for many years. Originally, the reason why he had bullied Lin Ling was because he wanted to help Teacher Siluan vent her anger and win her favor. But now, Siluan had changed from being Lin Ling's enemy to being on the same side as Lin Ling. This made him swallow the anger in his heart. Of course, he knew that the reason for this was because Lin Ling was constantly rising, and no one could suppress him. Vice Principal, for Lin Ling to pass the freshman training, it can only be said that his luck is not bad. Although I personally believe that luck is also a part of one's strength, but I have a bet with Lin Ling. If he obtains the Astral Origin Stone, I will kneel in front of the Snow Wind Academy for 3 days and 3 nights, and vice versa. At this moment, Zhou Lin shouted. His voice attracted everyone's attention. A bet. Only then did everyone realize that before entering the Starry Sky Forest, Teacher Zhou Lin and Lin Ling did indeed have such a bet. However, at that time, no one believed that Lin Ling could survive. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling continued to do as he pleased. He didn't care about the crowd, he just stared at the sky. No one knew what he was thinking. This made many people speculate that Lin Ling didn't obtain the Astral Origin Stone. After all, it was already very difficult to survive in the Starry Sky Forest for a year, let alone find the Astral Origin Stone. Mr. Zhou Lin, the fact that Lin Ling made it out alive is already something to be happy about. Why are you bringing up the past? Although she looked down on Lin Ling in the past, Lin Ling was still her student. Moreover, the reason why she looked down on Lin Ling was because she felt that Lin Ling had entered through the back door. However, now that Lin Ling had completed the freshman's trial, so what if he had entered through the back door? Lin Ling definitely had something worth nurturing. Teacher Siluan. Zhou Lin was even more furious. The person he was pursuing was actually speaking up for Lin Ling. She made him look like a villain. He didn't believe that he, the messenger of God, wouldn't be able to trample on a mere junior. A martial artist's word carries weight. Moreover, this bet was held under the watchful eyes of God. Even if I wanted to settle things peacefully, God would definitely not allow it. This is because this is blasphemy against God. Zhou Lin said righteously. Teacher Siluan opened her mouth, but she couldn't refute him. The vice president frowned. Zhou Lin, take a step back in everything. It'll be easier for us to meet in the future. Was she speaking up for Lin Ling again? Zhou Lin was even more furious. He was a messenger of God and a native martial artist of the final world. However, the vice president was actually helping Lin Ling and ignoring him. Vice president, a martial artist should do what they say. How can they go back on their words just because they have completed the freshman's trial? That's right. If the Snow Wind Academy can't even do what they said, then I think the Snow Wind Academy is nothing more than this. A win is a win, a loss is a loss. At this moment, many freshmen shouted in support of Mr. Zhou Lin. Many of them were Mr. Zhou Lin's students. Moreover, they were extremely unhappy with Lin Ling. He was just a piece of trash who got in through the back door. How could he be more dazzling than them? All of you shut up. Seeing that everyone was targeting Lin Ling, Teacher Siluan couldn't help but shout. As for Zhuang Yanming and the others, they naturally spoke up for Lin Ling. After all, they all owed Lin Ling a life. For a moment, at the entrance of the Snow Wind Academy, both sides were arguing. As for the martial artists from Snow Wind City, they were extremely surprised. They never thought that a Lin Ling would cause such a big reaction. And from the looks of it, this Lin Ling seems to be a very ordinary existence. Although this Lin Ling is somewhat powerful, there are more people supporting Teacher Zhou Lin. It seems that he will have to kneel for 3 days and 3 nights. Yes, only Teacher Siluan's students support Lin Ling. What's more, Lin Ling has indeed lost. Willing to bet but not willing to admit defeat, this is indeed shameful. Many people also began to discuss spiritedly. Some impatient martial artists even voiced their support for teacher Zhou Lin. Teacher Zhou Lin also didn't expect so many people to support him. He couldn't help but smile. His smile was extremely proud. He didn't say anything because justice was in the hearts of people. Vice President, what do you think? Finally, teacher Zhou Lin looked at the Vice President and said, what he meant was, even if I don't care about this matter, will the others not care? The Vice President's face instantly turned ugly. It seemed that it would be difficult for him to protect Lin Ling. In the end, he fell silent. That Zhou Lin laughed loudly and looked proudly at Zhuang Yanming and the rest. It was as if he was saying that you students want to fight with me. Dream on. Lin Ling, what else do you have to say? Finally, he stared at Lin Ling and said arrogantly, if you agree to bet, you must accept defeat. For these 3 days, you will kneel in the Snow Wind Academy. Of course, during these 3 days, we will provide food. Ha ha ha. Hearing this, all the freshmen laughed loudly as if they had vented their anger. There were even more impulsive students who strode towards Lin Ling, wanting to grab Lin Ling and make him kneel. Pa! However, at this moment, a crisp sound rang out as if something had been thrown onto the ground by Lin Ling. This caused everyone to be stunned. What was the meaning of this? They couldn't help but look at Lin Ling and found that Lin Ling was still absent-minded. He didn't even look at teacher Zhou Lin. Do you think you can get away with just throwing out a few random things? If you agree to bet, you must accept defeat. Even if you invite the gods, you will still have to kneel for 3 days and 3 nights. Teacher Zhou Lin smiled disdainfully and didn't care at all. Instead, he said to his student, Zhu Hashu, you don't have to worry about anything. With me here, you can do whatever you want. Yes, teacher. Yes. The student immediately nodded. He was already in front of Lin Ling and wanted to grab Lin Ling and make him kneel. Wait. Chapter 3455. Prove it. Vice Dean, even now, do you still want to speak for Lin Ling? However, this was impossible because no one could change the fact that he had lost the bet. Lin Ling immediately said subconsciously. He thought that the vice principal still wanted to find a way to help Lin Ling, but he thought that this was just a dream. Lin Ling would definitely kneel. I didn't explain for him, but look at what he threw. However, the vice principal frowned and shook his head. Hee. Mr. Zhou Lin smiled disdainfully and looked at the item that Lin Ling had recognized. Who knew that he would be dumbfounded when he saw it? This was because there was a black-blue stone lying on the ground. The surface of the stone shone with the light of the stars, and it was extremely mysterious. If this was not an astral origin stone, then what was it? Teacher Zhou Lin rubbed his eyes, and his pupils widened. Everyone was also stunned, and then they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Previously, a lot of people were fighting fiercely, forcing Lin Ling to kneel for 3 days and 3 nights, forming 2 camps. However, they had forgotten that Lin Ling had already obtained the star origin stone. And this was even more impossible. This was because it was already a miracle for a new student to survive for a year in the Starry Sky Forest, not to mention finding the astral origin stone. Most importantly, Lin Ling was alone from the beginning to the end. Moreover, Lin Ling was only at the saint stage. It was said that he was trash who got in through the back door. How could this be? At that moment, Zhou Lin and the others had their mouths agape. It was as if their jaws were about to hit the ground. It turned out that their previous arguments were just clowns dancing. Even if they won, it would be useless. Because the astral origin stone was the key to everything. This guy. Teacher Cailuan, Salam Ming, and the others were trembling with excitement. Not only had Lin Ling survived, he had even obtained the astral origin stone. This fellow was truly a freak. It was obvious that they had been worried for nothing. Their gazes fell on Lin Ling, and they discovered that Lin Ling was still the same as before. He did as he pleased, as if he didn't care about anything. It was as if what was happening in front of Lin Ling was child's play. Just what had Lin Ling gone through to have such an indifferent expression? In just a short period of time, Shang Daiming and the others felt that they and Lin Ling were people from 2 different worlds. Of course, if they knew that Lin Ling was facing a god in the Starry Sky Forest, It would be normal for them to not care about such a small matter. Teacher Zhou Lin, I agree with what you said. If you agree to a bet, you have to accept your loss. After all, our Snow Wind Academy is also a divine shrine. How can we go back on our words? At this moment, the Vice Dean said indifferently. Obviously, he was very displeased with Teacher Zhou Lin's previous rebuttal, and now he was returning an eye for an eye. As for Teacher Zhou Lin, he was stunned. All the freshmen were dumbfounded. I have to kneel? Teacher Zhou Lin pointed at himself and said in disbelief. He is a god's messenger, and his body is shrouded in divine light. If he kneels, how can he face others in the future? That's right, and you have to kneel for 3 days. However, the Vice Dean corrected him. Teacher Zhou Lin's legs went soft, and he almost fell to the ground. Wait a minute, this astral origin stone is a little strange, and Lin Ling's survival in the starry sky forest is also a little strange. But at this moment, an indifferent voice suddenly sounded, and a stern-looking young man walked out. This person is Teacher Zhou Lin's student, and he has an outstanding status. He is also the son of the final world city lord, and most importantly, he is the son of a main city lord. His name is Yi Yiming, and he comes from Luoye City. There is also Luoye Academy there, but he came to Snow Wind Academy for other reasons. Because his background is not small, Teacher Zhou Lin took good care of him. Now that Teacher Zhou Lin is in trouble, he will naturally stand up for him. As for the son of the city lord, his background is not small. Even the Vice Dean frowned. Of course, Yi Yiming not only has a delicate status, he is also extremely powerful. He has a 3rd-grade ultimate desolate body, and he is a 1st-level martial ancestor. It can be said that with his strength, none of the new students are his match. Of course, he is not a new student, but a student of the Divine Second Hall. Why do you say that? At this moment, Teacher Cailuan saw Lin Ling's indifferent attitude, and she immediately spoke up for Lin Ling. It's simple, with his strength, it is impossible for him to survive. He must have cheated, and to cheat in the Divine Hall, I have to say, he has guts. This is blasphemy against the gods. Yi Yiming walked out and said with a smile. Moreover, he looked at Lin Ling. He did not expect that because of Lin Ling, he, Yi Yiming, would have a dazzling moment. One has to know that although he is the son of the city lord, because he is not a member of Snow Wind City, many people often forget about him. And now, he can use Lin Ling to be proud for once. Nonsense. This is the freshman trial. How can there be a chance to cheat? Teacher Cailuan immediately shouted coldly. Hee hee. Yi Yiming laughed. His laughter was light, but his body was filled with the aura of an ambitious person. If I remember correctly, this Lin Ling entered through the back door. May I ask, is this considered cheating? Ask again, if he has the strength, why does he need to enter through the back door? Finally, if he can enter through the back door, why can't he enter through the back door again in the freshman trial? Yi Yiming spoke without stopping, his words powerful and resonating. The surroundings instantly became silent. Many people's eyes flickered. They had to admit that Yi Yiming's words made sense. The Vice Dean's face turned ugly. Was Yi Yiming deliberately smearing Snow Wind Academy's reputation? Haha, not bad, not bad. This Lin Ling must have entered through the back door again. Perhaps. He did not even enter the starry sky forest. Teacher Zhou Lin immediately clamored. He wanted to seize the opportunity to turn defeat into victory. Nonsense. Zhuang Yanming and the rest were the ones who could prove Lin Ling the most. At this moment, they were arguing with reason. Unfortunately, their words carried little weight and they were not of much help. If you want to prove it, it's very simple. Fight with me. If he wins, it will prove that he did not enter through the back door. How about it? Yi Yiming sensed that it was about time, so he gradually walked out. The crowd immediately went into an uproar. Yi Yiming was a martial ancestor realm expert, and he had a 3rd-grade ultimate desolate body. As for Lin Ling, he was only at the Sage realm, and he was also a student of the Shensan Hall. The two of them could not be compared. Even Zhuang Yanming and the rest had a drastic change in expression. Although they knew that Lin Ling was powerful, Yi Yiming was even more powerful than a criminal. However, if Lin Ling did not fight, it meant that Lin Ling had cheated. Whether he entered through the back door or not, it's best to prove it now. Teacher Zhou Lin said at the critical moment. This sentence immediately ignited the crowd's emotions. Entering through the back door. Everyone felt that it was extremely shameful. Furthermore, entering through the back door was one thing, but entering through the back door in the freshman trial was too despicable. Chapter 3456. Smash. However, the angry shouts of the crowd still did not move Lin Ling in the slightest. He still did his own thing. This kind of disregard undoubtedly angered Yi Yiming. He decided to teach Lin Ling a good lesson and let him know why the flowers were so red. Lin Ling, it's time for you to prove yourself. Yi Yiming shouted loudly. There were countless echoes, and the clouds in the sky burst open. The voice finally interrupted Lin Ling's sigh. He shook his head and said, "We are all warriors of the final world. Why bother? I don't want to hurt you and embarrass you." When he said this, his eyes were calm, as if he was looking at a child, staring at Yi Yiming. Many people were startled by this scene. Because compared to the two sides, Lin Ling had the demeanor of a master, mysterious and unfathomable. On the other hand, Yi Yiming was like a clown, irritable and agitated, his mood unstable. The anger in Yi Yiming's heart burned even more, but he quickly laughed. He had guessed Lin Ling's intention because Lin Ling was just putting on an act to make him feel fearful. Ridiculous. Did he think he was an idiot? You only need one word, do you dare or not? Yi Yiming said as he stepped forward. Why do you have to force me to make a move? Seeing this, Lin Ling sighed and had no choice but to nod. With this nod, there was a lot of discussion around. This Lin Ling actually agreed to it. A guy who came in through the back door provoked the strong people of Shen Air Hall. Isn't this looking for trouble? Yi Yiming's talent and strength are higher than Lin Ling. Lin Ling is not his opponent at all. This is a battle of abuse. Many warriors were talking about it. They were powerful, so they naturally knew the gap between the two sides. A large number of freshmen also clamored and cheered for Yi Yiming. This made Yi Yiming laugh. He enjoyed this kind of atmosphere. After all, although he was the son of the city lord of Luoye City, he only received attention in Luoye City. In Snow-Blowing City he was too weak. But now, he was starting to become the center of attention. Perhaps, he could also receive today's news in Luoye City. At that time, just thinking about it made him happy. His father should be happy for him too. With that thought in mind, he unleashed his full strength. His third-grade talent burst forth, and a shadow condensed from blood appeared behind him. Congealed Supreme God Blood. This was clearly the bloodline of a deity, capable of dominating the world. And against such a powerful talent, if the final desolate body grade was not high, just their aura alone would be suppressed. They would only be able to use about 60% of their strength. Lin Ling, if you want to go through the back door, then you should have the awareness of going through the back door. Yi Yiming's aura didn't decrease at all. He turned into a bloody light and shot towards Lin Ling. His speed had reached 400 world speed. This speed could definitely dominate the Sage realm. He grabbed out with his big hand, and the clouds in the sky seemed to have turned the color of blood. Ancestral power. It actually contained 10% of ancestral power. At this moment, no one was optimistic about Lin Ling. Everyone was guessing that Lin Ling might be scared to the point of collapsing. The palm was extremely fast, and it instantly appeared in front of Lin Ling, wanting to easily grab Lin Ling. However, at the critical moment, Lin Ling's footsteps moved slightly, and he actually avoided the palm. It seemed like a simple step, but there was a mysterious rhythm within it. Moreover, it was so light that even if the sky collapsed, he wouldn't be alarmed. Lin Ling seemed to be in the Sage realm, but with his 5 Dantians and God-Devil body combined, he wasn't weaker than Yi Yiming. In fact, he was even stronger. As for the final desolate body, Lin Ling's space-time God Eye was also 3rd grade. It could be said that Yi Yiming's talent didn't affect him at all. The only thing that Lin Ling cared about was Yi Yiming's speed. Before Lin Ling's talent fusion transformation, his full speed was only 300 world speed. However, he wasn't much weaker than Yi Yiming. After all, this 300 world speed was in the past. Now, Lin Ling's cultivation level had increased, and he had already reached the 6th stage of the Sage realm. At this moment, Yi Yiming's claw missed, and he was shocked. However, because he wanted to defeat Lin Ling in one strike, he had used too much strength, causing his body to be unbalanced. Senior, I'm just a freshman. You don't have to use so much strength to target me. Be careful not to use too much strength and bend your waist. At this moment, Lin Ling was standing beside Yi Yiming, and he gently pushed out his palm. In his palm, colorful flames burned as his god-devil body merged with his 5 dantians. It seemed like a gentle push, but in fact, it could move mountains and fill seas, and blow up a world. Yi Yiming was already unbalanced, and when Lin Ling's terrifying palm hit him, he felt like he was being crushed by a heavy mountain. Boom! He smashed into the ground, and the earth instantly cracked open. It was earth-shattering. Everyone was so shocked that their mouths were agape. From their point of view, it seemed like Lin Ling had only pushed him lightly. However, this push was simply too terrifying. Many people could imagine Yi Yiming's miserable state at this moment. A huge human figure appeared on the ground, and the surroundings were full of cracks. Yi Yiming raised his head, and his face was full of blood. This guy kissed the ground. He wanted to see how hard the ground was, right? This was simply a dog-eating action. You damn it! Yi Yiming was boiling with anger, and he was about to stand up. Senior, why are you so careless? I'll help you up. Lin Ling was still standing beside Yi Yiming, and he gently helped him up. However, this time, Lin Ling suddenly slipped, and this caused Yi Yiming, who was halfway up, to be smashed into the ground again. Rumble! This smash caused the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. The nearby streets all exploded, and it was terrifying. Yi Yiming once again fell down, and many of his teeth fell out. His eyes were full of flames. If looks could kill, he would definitely burn Lin Ling alive. This was because Lin Ling's careless fall seemed simple, but in fact, it contained a terrifying force. It could even destroy the streets, so how could the force be small? Senior, I'm sorry. I was too careless and accidentally caused you to fall like a dog. Lin Ling said apologetically, and he actually went to help Yi Yiming up again. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then their hearts were filled with disdain. Yi Yiming fell so miserably. Wasn't this caused by you? You still have the nerve to speak in a harmless tone. As for Yi Yiming, he struggled to get up. After hearing Lin Ling's words, he was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The strength to get up seemed to have disappeared. However, Lin Ling naturally wouldn't let him lie on the ground again, and he used both hands to help him up. However, halfway through, Lin Ling's feet slipped again. Rumble! Yi Yiming once again smashed into the ground, and it was even more terrifying than before. Snow Wind Academy was shaken by 3 points. This wasn't just helping him up, it was simply grabbing Yi Yiming and smashing him into the ground. No one expected that Lin Ling's seemingly thin body, but his strength was even more terrifying than a beast. Yi Yiming must have been seriously injured by this. Senior, can you stand firm? It's hard for me to help you up like this. Chapter 3457. Accepting Lin Ling as a disciple. Yi Yiming's internal organs were all displaced. Hearing Lin Ling's words, he almost cried. Stand firm? I also want to stand firm. You're the one who smashed me to the ground. Don't worry, I'll definitely help you up this time. Lin Ling spoke again. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled fiercely. They felt that something ominous was going to happen again. Yi Yiming's feeling was the strongest. If he was smashed again, even a martial ancestor like him would not be able to withstand it. At this moment, he only wanted to wave his hand and stay far away from Lin Ling. Lin Ling, you don't need to help me up. I can get up by myself. Thank you for your kindness. Yi Yiming was about to faint from the smashing. He had completely forgotten his purpose. However, Lin Ling did not pay attention to him at all. He had already helped him up halfway. However, hearing Yi Yiming's words, he finally nodded and said, If I were you, I would keep smiling and put my hands behind my back, revealing the elegance of a martial ancestor. You won't help me up like this? No, falling like this is more graceful. After Lin Ling finished speaking, his feet seemed to slip again. His hands seemed to subconsciously let go again. It seemed to be a gentle release, but it could easily break through 10,000 worlds. Yi Yiming's eyes widened. Falling like this is more graceful? Boom. The third heavy fall, A huge deep hole appeared on the ground. Moreover, it was a human-shaped deep hole. Yi Yiming was directly smashed unconscious. He never thought that although he had a powerful realm essence, he could not resist Lin Ling at all. Although he had outstanding talent, it seemed that he could not affect Lin Ling at all. He, an expert of the Shen Air Hall, was defeated just like that. Moreover, he was smashed alive. Of course, he was not the only one who was shocked. Everyone present opened their mouths wide. This unprecedented battle was simply something they had never seen in their lives. This also meant that Lin Ling's strength surpassed Yi Yiming's by too much. That was why he could defeat him so easily. And this was trash who got in through the back door? Apart from Zhuang Yanming and the others who were mentally prepared, even teacher Cailuan was so shocked that she covered her mouth. As for teacher Zhou Lin, he was tongue-tied. Yi Yiming was his proudest disciple. He had thought that defeating Lin Ling would be as easy as flipping a flip. However, in the end, Yi Yiming was smashed unconscious. Moreover, he was shamelessly smashed Lin Ling by Lin Ling. Especially Lin Ling's last sentence. Throwing it like this is more graceful. This sentence kept Zhou Lin's Zhou. Previously, he wanted to resist kneeling to the death, so he grabbed hold of Lin Ling's weakness and attacked. However, he obviously failed. And Fang Yiming. Zhou Lin. Fang's Yiming. Yayam Lu. Ice Yayain. Oh right, I just remembered that senior brother from before wanted to fight with me. Senior brother, please come out and fight. Lin Ling shouted at the pit under his feet. He invited Yi Yiming to come out and fight. Everyone shuddered. Was the previous battle not considered a battle? Yi Yiming was smashed like a dog even if it was not a battle. What if it was a real battle? The result was simply unimaginable. Even the experts of Shen Air Hall were staring at Lin Ling with fear in their eyes. This freshman was too terrifying. Yi Yiming was still lying in the pit. He had heard Lin Ling's words. However, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was determined not to go up. Only a fool would go up. Seeing that the pit was silent, Lin Ling shrugged helplessly and looked at Mr. Zhou Lin. He smiled and said, Mr. Zhou Lin, as the messenger of God, you won't go back on your word, right? Lin Ling did not care if teacher Zhou Lin would kneel for 3 days. Instead, he walked toward the old woman. To him, the previous incident was just a child's play. If teacher Zhou Lin had not been so aggressive, Lin Ling would not have cared. His goal was to complete the divine trials. Plop. At this moment, teacher Zhou Lin's face turned ugly. His legs gave way and he knelt down in front of countless people. Now, he was too embarrassed to go back on his words. He had to kneel for 3 days and 3 nights. It was a great humiliation to him as the messenger of God. Lin Ling is so strong. Seeing Lin Ling leave, teacher Cailuan was still covering her mouth. She remembered when she had signed up. At that time, she had looked down on Lin Ling and thought that Lin Ling had taken the back door. Now, she finally understood what the dean meant. Teacher, in the Starry Sky Forest, Lin Ling defeated countless convicts and even became their leader. Chu Yun suddenly said. Chu Yun suddenly spoke from the side. His words caused Cailuan's heart to tremble once more. She hurriedly searched for Lin Ling, but she discovered that Lin Ling had already disappeared. A guy who took the back door? Teacher Cailuan was shocked. Sounds of discussion rose and fell in succession from the surroundings. This Lin Ling defeated Yi Yiming, who is a martial ancestor. You should know that Yi Yiming is stronger than many martial progenitors. I heard that he is also called the Son of Demon in the 9 prefectures and is a member of the God Slayer Alliance. At first, I thought that the God Slayer Alliance was a child's play. Now, it seems that the God Slayer Alliance is quite amazing. I wonder who is more powerful between the God Slayer Alliance and the Final World's experts. Without a doubt, after what had happened, Lin Ling had become a student of the Shen Air Hall. There were very few people in the Snow Wind Academy who could pass the freshman trial and become a student of the Shen Air Hall. Most importantly, Lin Ling was the most dazzling among all the students who had become a student of the Shen Air Hall. Not long after, the crowd dispersed one after another. City Governor Tsong, I have some good wine here. Why don't you stay and have a taste? Just as Tsong Chiri was about to catch up with Lin Ling, the vice president's voice sounded. Tsong Chiri did not want to talk to him. However, since the young master had completed the divine trial in the Snow Wind Academy, The vice president might be useful in the future. Therefore he smiled and nodded his head. The two of them immediately walked into the depths of the Snow Wind Academy. Not long after, in a luxurious room, the vice president took out the wine that he had kept for many years and poured a cup for Xueqi. Xueqi took a sip and nodded his head in satisfaction. He looked at the vice president and said, "Vice President, you invited me here for more than just a drink, right?" The vice chief chuckled. "I can see that this Lin Ling's talent is quite impressive. Despite being a genius, he was able to defeat the first-layer martial progenitor Realm Yi Yiming. Therefore, I would like to recruit him as my disciple." Puff! Xueqi spat out the wine in his mouth. "Accept the young master as his disciple? Are you kidding me?" The young master was a trial taker and Lei Gong had taken a fancy to him. How could the vice president of the Snow Wind Academy be qualified to accept him? No. Xueqi immediately shook his head. The vice president was stunned. With his status, he had taken the initiative to accept Lin Ling as his disciple. How could Xueqi reject him? This was not giving him any face at all. Seeing the vice president's pale face, Xueqi thought for a while and said, "I don't have the final say in this matter." "What? You don't have the final say?" Chapter 3458. Talent Upgrade. What? It was Xueqi's turn to be shocked. The young master was his illegitimate son? If senior sister knew about this, she would definitely beat him up. He said seriously, "Vice President, Lin Ling is not my illegitimate son. I am not qualified to be his disciple. Also, don't even think about taking him in as a disciple." His serious tone made the vice president feel that something was amiss. "Also, even you are not qualified." However, Xueqi said again. This time, the vice president's expression changed drastically. The unruly Lin Ling who did not seem to care about anything had such a powerful background? Could he be the son of a martial god? The vice president's breathing slowed down. Hearing this, Xueqi smiled faintly and did not explain. Instead, he continued to drink. After finishing the vice president's wine, he bid farewell and left. As this was a serious matter, he did not explain anything. However, he knew that even the top 10 martial gods were not qualified to take Lin Ling in as a disciple. The vice president was still guessing. Could Lin Ling be the son of a martial god? It was very possible. He had heard that Lin Ling had killed a martial god before. Martial god Qilin was not the strongest among the top 10 martial gods. If Lin Ling dared to kill him, he must have a martial god as a father. While he was thinking, Lin Ling had already returned to the courtyard. "Brother Lin Ling." Xiaoyu was hugged by Lin Ling. She was all smiles. After a year of separation, she missed Lin Ling dearly. Even her little white rabbit and deer were clinging to Lin Ling, which made Lin Ling laugh. Lin Ling looked around and saw Zhongjian and Dou Kening. He immediately realized that they had awakened the ultimate desolate body and had reached the first grade. It seemed that the spiritual marrow in the courtyard had taken effect. However, Lin Ling could also sense that Zhongjian and Dou Kening's ultimate desolate body had limited potential. For example, Zhongjian could at most reach the second grade. Afterimage was slightly better. He had a third-grade ultimate desolate body. In the 9 provinces, such a person would be an existence that stood at the pinnacle of the world. But in the final world, such a person was nothing more than an ordinary existence. It was no wonder that the final world required powerful talents. After exchanging a few words with Xiaoyu and the others, Lin Ling followed the old woman into the room. The old woman looked at Lin Ling expectantly. The excitement in her eyes was even stronger than Lin Ling's. "Lin Ling, have you found the Maha Mantra?" "Found it." Lin Ling immediately nodded and took out the black cloth on his body. As soon as the black cloth appeared, Lin Ling could clearly sense the old woman's body tremble, her face filled with disbelief. Clearly, she didn't think that Lin Ling would be able to complete the Trial of God's mission. In other words, among the 10 missions, Lin Ling had completed one of them. This was because the first mission had 3 tasks. He only needed to complete 2 of them. And Lin Ling had been in the final world for less than 3 years. Yet, he had completed one of the missions. This was the fastest among the 10 trial takers. That's great, that's great." The old woman hurriedly checked the black cloth. Finally, She seemed to confirm something before she carefully kept the black cloth. However, Lin Ling sensed that the old woman was not familiar with the Maha Mantra. She was only the guardian of the mission. Only Lin Ling knew that the Maha Mantra was related to the world's will. Perhaps the four great gods were all paying attention to the world's will. You have completed the first mission. You can raise any conditions to Lei Gong. The old woman looked at Lin Ling and said. Upon hearing this, Lin Ling licked his lips. Although his current talent was not weak, he had yet to reach his limits. He needed many cultivation treasures. However, he eventually shook his head. Cultivation treasures could be obtained slowly, but if he did not settle this matter properly, he could not cultivate in peace. I want Lei Gong to protect the Qing prefecture for me. Protect my hometown. How about that? Lin Ling stated the conditions in his heart. The old woman fell silent for a moment before nodding. All right, I'll leave first. I'll report your conditions to Lei Gong. However, I'm guessing that these conditions should not be difficult. All right. Lin Ling immediately nodded as he watched the old woman leave. In the following period of time, Lin Ling waited for news from the old woman. He was also waiting for the second mission. And now he had just broken through. It was not suitable for him to raise his cultivation level in the short term. Most importantly, the increase in cultivation level was not the most important thing. What was important was the improvement of his ultimate desolate body. For example, he had several ultimate desolate bodies. Even a martial ancestor like Yi Yiming was not his match. This showed the importance of talent. I'll first raise the space-time divine steel to its limit. Soon, Lin Ling made a decision. And he was in the Spirit Pith courtyard. The speed of raising his talent was much faster than other places. The Starry Sky Forest Celestial Emperor Zhang Gang gave me some power, allowing my space-time divine steel to reach the 3rd grade. Now, with the power of the Spirit Pith, it will probably only take a few months for the space-time divine steel to reach the 4th grade. However, the space-time divine steel can still stimulate its potential and barely reach the 5th grade. However, this stimulation depends on luck. Furthermore, the Spirit Pith's assistance is obvious at the beginning. However, it will gradually weaken. Especially for those with high ultimate desolate bodies, the assistance will be even weaker. It looks like when the space-time divine steel reaches the 4th grade, I'll need another method. During this period of time, Lin Ling's talent was improving in all aspects. Among them, the space-time divine steel's improvement was the most obvious. As for the Sky Dragon's bones, the Supreme Netherwind Dragon and the Realm-Swallowing Beast, they were still at the 1st grade ultimate desolate body. Among them, the Realm-Swallowing Beast was in existence with a desolate body. This also meant that the greater the potential, the harder it was to raise it. If not, Savage Sword and Company would not have been able to raise their talent so quickly. This was because their ultimate desolate bodies were not comparable to Lin Ling's. Unknowingly, 3 months had passed. However, the old woman had yet to return. On the contrary, Lin Ling's space-time divine steel was only a step away from the 4th grade ultimate desolate body. As for the other ultimate desolate bodies, they had also improved and were approaching the 2nd grade. This was also because Lin Ling had the Spirit Pith. If he did not have it, the improvement would be even slower. If this carries on, I'm afraid the space-time divine steel will need even more time to reach its limit. Lin Ling could not help but ponder. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He suddenly thought of a divine technique that he had luckily obtained in his previous life. This cultivation technique was called the Dark North Divine Technique. It was a cultivation technique that aided in the improvement of the ultimate desolate body. By cultivating this cultivation technique, one could borrow all the external energy to reach the ultimate desolate body. However, this cultivation technique was only suitable for people who had reached the ultimate desolate body's limit. For example, Savage Sword and Company. For example, Lin Ling's space-time divine steel. It had no effect on talents with limitless potential like the Sky Dragon's bones. Savage Sword, Old Du, come out. Lin Ling hurriedly left the room. Young master. My lord. When Savage Sword and Company heard the voice, they hurriedly appeared in the courtyard. They looked curiously at Lin Ling. I'll impart to you a cultivation technique that can stimulate your talent to the limit. Chapter 3459. Dark North Godly Technique. Push it to the limit? Hearing this, Remnant Sword and Dew Afterimage were shocked. They had just raised their talents. It was clearly very difficult for them to reach the limit. But their young master had a cultivation technique that could push them to the limit? If such a cultivation technique were to spread to the 9 provinces, it would probably cause a bloodbath. This cultivation technique is not suitable for everyone. It's only suitable for those who are about to reach the limit of their talents. Come. Lin Ling was not surprised by their surprise. Following that, his soul power surged out and covered Remnant Sword and Dew Afterimage, imparting the Dark North Godly Technique to them. As for Remnant Sword and Dew Afterimage, their expressions kept changing. Finally, they looked up with shock in their eyes. Dark North Godly Technique. Through the attacks of others, the energy would surge towards the ultimate desolate body and push it to the limit. There was such a wonderful cultivation technique in this world. At this moment, even a knowledgeable old monster like Dew Afterimage could not help but sigh at his own narrow-mindedness. All right, next, I'll help you push it to the limit. Seeing that the two of them were enlightened, Lin Ling nodded and said, Brother, I want it too. Xueqi was extremely curious and wanted to stimulate her talent. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. With his eyesight, he still could not see through Xueqi's talent. How could he stimulate the Dark North Godly Technique? Furthermore, Xueqi was the granddaughter of treasure god Nan Wu Fengyu. How could her talent be weak? Lin Ling explained to Xueqi, making her obediently stand by the side. Following that, Lin Ling began attacking Remnant Sword and Dew Afterimage. Bang! Bang! He controlled his strength well. It was just enough to stimulate the Dark North Godly Technique without harming Remnant Sword and Dew Afterimage. Under the constant attacks, Remnant Sword was the first to show signs of a breakthrough. His entire being was stirred up. However, even though Lin Ling controlled it well, the constant attacks still caused Remnant Sword to suffer some injuries. Furthermore, he did not have Lin Ling's insane recovery ability. Hence, Lin Ling could only let him rest. Young master, come and hit me. When it was Dew Afterimage's turn, he was lying on the ground with his limbs spread out like a masochist. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. He raised his foot and stomped down. "Ah, this is great, this is great. Young master, torture me." Dew Afterimage immediately let out a satisfied sound, causing Xueqi and Remnant Sword to laugh. It was all because of Afterimage. This old man was too wretched. As for Lin Ling, after continuously stomping on the ground, he noticed that Dew Afterimage's talent had improved. However, Dew Afterimage was also slightly injured. In the end, he retracted his foot. "All of you attack me." Next, Lin Ling ordered Savage Sword and the others to attack. Broken Sword didn't dare to attack anymore. In his heart, Lin Ling was his master. How could a slave attack his master? "Make your move. You don't have to hold back." Lin Ling knew what they were thinking and said with a smile, "My lord, I'm sorry for the offense." Broken Sword didn't dare to disobey Lin Ling's orders and quickly attacked. He had restrained himself in the beginning, causing Lin Ling to feel that his strength was not enough. Therefore, he made the Broken Sword release even more power. In the end, Broken Sword released all his power. However, what made Lin Ling speechless was that even though Broken Sword released all his power, he couldn't activate the Dark North Divine skill. Instead, Broken Sword and Dew Afterimage worked together to activate the Dark North Divine skill. However, it would take a long time for the mysterious power to activate the Time and Space Divine Steel to its limit. In the end, it was because Broken Sword and the others were too weak. Lin Ling couldn't help but look at the city governor's mansion. There were many experts there, so they should be able to meet his requirements. Then, Lin Ling brought Xueqi and the others to the city governor's mansion. He found Xueqi and told him his purpose. "What? You want us to beat you up?" When Xueqi heard the news, he was almost scared to death. To him, Lin Ling was a trial taker who could meet Lei Gong directly. How could he, a lowly holy paladin, touch Lin Ling? He couldn't even touch a single hair of his. If senior sister knew, she would kill him on the spot. "No, no, young master, don't play with me." Xueqi kept waving his hands and saying, "Brother Song, don't worry. When you attack me, I will activate the divine skill to take a beating. I will be fine. Moreover, don't underestimate my physical strength." Lin Ling tried to persuade him. No, you can kill me. Anyway, I won't beat you up. Xueqi kept shaking his head like a rattledrum. Lin Ling was speechless. He looked at the guards around him. They were all martial ancestors, so they should be able to activate the Dark North Divine skill. Plop! When the guards saw Lin Ling looking at them, their legs turned to jelly. Young master, please spare our lives. Even the city governor didn't dare to beat Lin Ling. How could they have the guts to do so? If they dared to touch a hair on Lin Ling's head today, it was possible that the city lord would kill them tomorrow. Why don't you beat us up? An old man at the middle stage martial ancestor realm said while crying. What? Lin Ling was tongue-tied. He was here to ask for a beating, not to beat someone up. Young master, if you want to be beaten, you can go to Intentionless City. At this time, Xueqi reminded him. Intentionless City has many martial arts clubs. Some experts who are not qualified to enter the academy can cultivate in the martial arts clubs to improve their strength. Young master, you can go there and challenge them. Intentionless City was only 2 ancient cities away from Snow City, so it was not far away. Martial arts clubs? Lin Ling could not help but be surprised. Yes, in the final world there are very few sections. Because of the existence of the academy, sects are not qualified to exist. Therefore, some ancestors who founded sects in the 9 continents can only open martial arts clubs here. However, young master, don't underestimate these martial arts clubs. Many of them are very powerful. Xueqi explained. Sounds good. Lin Ling nodded with a smile. In Snow City, ordinary people did not dare to provoke him. Apparently, he could not activate the space-time steel. It was not a bad idea to go to other cities. Seeing Lin Ling nodding, Xueqi shouted, Young master, are you sure you want to go to Intentionless City? Men, inform the army to send young master there. Remember, if you meet someone who doesn't know his place, kill him without mercy. Wait. Lin Ling hurriedly stopped him. If the army followed him, he would not be able to cultivate. He was going there to be beaten, not to beat people. Then he told Xueqi the reason, but Xueqi was very worried. Don't worry. Although many people want to kill me, the world is so big. If I suddenly leave, they may not know. Lin Ling could not help but comfort him. Most importantly, he knew that after the trip to the Starry Sky Forest, his enemies were greatly weakened. It would be difficult for them to gather experts to kill him in a short period of time. That's the only way. Xueqi nodded. But in fact, he still had to protect Lin Ling secretly. Lin Ling did not know this. After he asked about the whereabouts of Intentionless City, he immediately left Snow City. Chapter 3460. I'm here to challenge the dojo. Xiaoyu and company had stayed in Snow City for a year. Now that they were out, they were naturally overjoyed. This also caused Lin Ling to take 3 days to reach Intentionless City. The city was extremely ancient. It was built with green bricks and glazed tiles. It was beautiful and indeed looked like a city in God's world. There were many people in the city. At a rough glance, there were hundreds of thousands of people. This did not include those that Lin Ling did not see. It was probably a huge city with millions of people. Most importantly, this was only a sub-city. After accompanying Xiaoyu and company for an entire morning and seeing the city's unique features, Lin Ling brought Remnant Sword and company to a dojo in the afternoon. The dojo was called Soaring Feather Dojo. Although it was called a dojo, it was actually an ancient sect. Remnant Sword spent an entire morning investigating. This sect was an immortal sect in Yu State. It had countless disciples and was extremely powerful. However, when an immortal sect came to God's world, they could not establish a sect. They could only name it as a dojo. As for the sect master, he had been here for 50,000 years. It was said that he was once a disciple of the academy. However, his potential was limited, so he could only open a dojo. Not long after, an ancient building made of white jade appeared in front of them. As they could not establish a sect, the dojo was not big. However, there were many people entering and exiting. Furthermore, most of them were young people. Clearly, most of these young people were experts who had been eliminated from the academy. Of course, There were also experts from the academy who came to the dojo to increase their strength. After looking carefully for a moment, Lin Ling brought Xiaoyu and company into the dojo. The dojo was ancient in style. There were many dragon and tiger statues. Furthermore, there was a mysterious Tao emanating from it. As the wind blew, it seemed to bring order to the universe. As the leaves fell, they brought with them the traces of the 9 states. This dojo was indeed extraordinary. Young friend, are you here to learn martial arts? Our soaring feather dojo is most suitable for you. If you encounter any problems with the ultimate desolate body, or problems with the power of ranks, or even bottlenecks in realms, we can help you solve them. At this moment, a man in a loose Taoist robe walked over with a smile. He thought that Lin Ling was here to learn martial arts. You can even learn the power of grades? Hearing this, Lin Ling couldn't help but be surprised. If such a dojo was placed in the 9 prefectures, martial artists would definitely fight to enter it. Of course. Our sect master, Taoist Fei Yu, is a late-stage martial ancestor expert. He has been practicing martial arts for 60,000 years. He has given lectures on how to defy the heavens and change one's fate. There is nothing that he doesn't know. Furthermore, our Taoist Fei Yu has been to the underworld before. That man introduced proudly. You only need to pay 1 billion royal crystals, and then you can discuss martial arts here. The man jabbered on endlessly, praising the Featherflight Martial Arts School to the skies. Lin Ling and Xiaoyu looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Although Lin Ling came to challenge the dojo, he didn't like to casually provoke people, so he smiled and said, "Senior, I'm sorry, but I'm not here to sign up." However, just as he finished speaking, the man's expression changed and became fierce. You didn't sign up? Do you know where this is? Get lost, get lost. Obviously, he had been so friendly previously because he thought that Lin Ling was here to sign up. Since he wasn't here to learn martial arts, there was no need to be polite to such a person. He could just kick him out. Get lost. Lin Ling immediately frowned. He had wanted to explain his intentions and discuss whether it was appropriate. However, who would have thought that this man would ask him to get lost? Furthermore, after the man had turned around and left, he immediately sent someone to chase Lin Ling away. However, after taking a few steps, Lin Ling's voice came from behind him. I'm indeed not here to sign up. I'm here to challenge the dojo. Challenge the dojo. As soon as this word was spoken, the entire dojo seemed to fall silent. The man turned around and looked at Lin Ling. His face was filled with shock. Sage stage? Challenge the dojo? He laughed loudly and his laughter was filled with mockery. Challenges were not uncommon in Intentionless City. As there were many dojos competing for powerful cultivators, naturally, challenges were inevitable. And their soaring feather dojo had been around for many years, so it was not uncommon for them to encounter such situations. However, every person who came to challenge the dojo had their legs broken and thrown out. If not for the strict order in the world of gods, they would have long killed the challengers. Now, a few sages were here to challenge the dojo? Were they trying to make them laugh their heads off? Junior brother Lu, I'll leave the challenge to you. The man smiled contemptuously and turned to leave. He completely ignored Lin Ling and company. Challenge? You sure have guts. Let me tell you, if we were in the 9 states, I would have wiped out your entire family. Now, I won't kill you, but I will definitely cripple your legs. The expert named Junior Brother Lu rushed out of the Grand Hall. He had the strength of a peak sage stage expert and a second-grade ultimate desolate body. He grabbed at Lin Ling with his large hand. The power of his cultivation level was extremely powerful, and there were a large number of experts in the Grand Hall. They first smiled, then looked at the ancient Zen word and began cultivating again. They did not even have the thought of taking another look at Lin Ling. This was because they knew that such a kid would definitely be crippled and thrown out of the dojo. However, to cripple Lin Ling at the sage stage? That seemed like wishful thinking. Lin Ling shook his head. He looked at Junior Brother Lu and punched out. Rumble. There was an explosion as the void exploded. A figure flew backwards along the ground, smashing through countless stone sculptures before finally crashing into the dojo. Pwah! A mouthful of blood spewed out. It was Junior Brother Lu. He pointed at Lin Ling and wanted to say something, but he fainted immediately. If we were in the 9 states, you would have died if you dared to attack me. At the same time, a few figures walked into the Grand Hall from outside. As for the experts in the Grand Hall, they were all dumbfounded. They were really here to challenge the dojo, and they were sages. Instantly, the Grand Hall fell silent. Everyone seemed to be in a dream because a stage expert had come to challenge the dojo. This was too unbelievable for them. Moreover, this was also a humiliation to the Flying Feather Martial Hall. "Kid, what are you trying to do?" Those experts who were surrounding the Bzen word all let out low voices. They were quiet and motionless like immovable wisdom kings. However, their auras were like high mountains and flowing water, with a touch of Tao. After they spoke, the entire Grand Hall became oppressive. However, Lin Ling smiled and walked forward. He came to the front of those experts and stared at the Bzen word on the ground. He could see that this word seemed simple, but in fact, it was mixed with the order of martial arts. When a martial artist visualized the Bzen word, it could greatly increase their strength. Presumably, this mysterious word was left behind by the experts of the Flying Feather Martial Hall. Bang! Lin Ling raised his foot and stomped down hard. The ground cracked, and the seemingly ordinary word was immediately trampled into pieces. "I said, I'm here to challenge the dojo." This stomp caused the Grand Hall to become even more silent. While everyone was still in shock, Lin Ling once again stated his purpose for coming here. Boom! Chapter 3461. It shouldn't be difficult to beat you up. As for the people surrounding the Bzen character, they remained seated, but their bodies were trembling. They stared at the broken ground, their hearts bleeding. That was because the seemingly simple word was priceless. "Do you know what you're doing?" "Yes." At the same time, all the powerhouses raised their heads and looked at Lin Ling coldly. Everyone knew that the arrogant young man was in trouble. Boom! Boom! However, just as this thought appeared in their minds, multicolored flames erupted. Within the flames, figures flew out one after another, smashing into the hard walls. Then they powerlessly slid down. Cracks appeared on the walls as well. If the attacker had not shown mercy, the entire Soaring Feather Martial Arts Hall would have been destroyed by that attack. Those who flew out were the same powerhouses from before, and none of them were left. Everyone knew that there were early-stage martial progenitors among the experts. Everyone swallowed their saliva with difficulty and looked at the center of the hall. There, a man in a blue robe stood upright like a pine tree. At the same time, his calm voice drifted into everyone's ears like the wind. "Do you not understand the word challenge? Or did I not make it clear enough?" "Yes." Everyone was so angry that their teeth were itching, as if they had been severely humiliated. However, Lin Ling's strength was so strong that they could not do anything. Bastard! This guy is lawless. Does he think that there is no one in the Feiyu Martial Club? If someone like him was in Jojo, he would have been killed long ago. Those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. They spoke one after another. They did not expect that Lin Ling did not want to challenge the Feiyu Martial Club so brazenly. He wanted to negotiate with the Feiyu Martial Club, but the Feiyu Martial Club saw that he was not there to learn martial arts and immediately chased him away. This was obviously not directed at Lin Ling, but at the rules of the Feiyu Martial Club. However, since the other party followed the rules of the Feiyu Martial Club, Lin Ling would naturally obey them and openly challenge them. "Teacher!" Suddenly, everyone glanced in the same direction and saw a few figures slowly walking into the hall through a door. The one leading them was an intermediate martial progenitor realm expert. Taoist Heavenly Feather. This was clearly an elder of the Soaring Feather Martial Dojo, and his strength was not weak at all. That person looked to be in his 40s. He was tall and sturdy, and had a majestic aura that could crush one's soul. He carried a sword on his back and wore a green robe. His steps were not fast, but they seemed to carry the rhythm of heaven and earth within them. Seeing this, everyone saluted. Lin Ling looked over as well. He had finally seen an expert. He had long known that for the Feiyu Martial Arts House to be located in Intentionless City, they must be quite capable. However, other than the teachers here, the others were very ordinary and couldn't be compared to the Wind Snow Academy. Although his cultivation level was about the same as Zhuang Yanming and the rest, his talent was still slightly weaker. Some of them were even existences with desolate bodies. It was no wonder they could not enter the school. Kid, where are your elders? Taoist Heavenly Feather looked calmly at Lin Ling. His face was calm as usual. It was obvious that he was used to this. I don't have any elders. I'm alone. You can send your experts to challenge me. Lin Ling said calmly. You should know that the price of failing to challenge the dojo is very high. Although you won't die, you might be crippled. Taoist Heavenly Feather said again. Although his tone was calm, it was filled with a fierce aura. It was obvious that even if Lin Ling gave up on challenging the dojo, he would not let Lin Ling leave in peace. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes flashed coldly. However, he did not mind and smiled. Seeing Lin Ling smile, Taoist Heavenly Feather said again, It seems like you don't know how many experts we have in the Soaring Feather Martial Arts House. Men, according to the rules of the dojo, challenge him. With a loud shout, even more powerhouses walked out of the door. These people were all disciples of the dojo. Their strength was between the peak of the Sage Realm and the Rank 1 Martial Ancestor Realm. Their talents were also more powerful than the previous challengers. They all possessed the ultimate second-grade Desolate Body. Of course, although their talents were not weak, their potential was average. Perhaps they would reach their limit after 1 or 2 grades. Senior Brother Shen is here. That's great. He's back. That's Senior Brother Hao Nan, the #1 genius in Yuzhou 3,000 years ago. Haha, the experts of the Soaring Feather Martial Arts House are back. This kid is dead meat. Looking at those experts, everyone became happy. Lin Ling smiled and said calmly, These people are barely enough to satisfy me. He was here to stimulate his talent. The stronger his opponents were, the more advantageous it would be for him. Furthermore, their strength could not exceed Lin Ling's tolerance. Therefore, the people in front of him were just right. Ha ha ha. At the thought of this, Lin Ling could not help but laugh heartily. As his laughter echoed, the whole fell silent. Everyone was tongue-tied. They thought that Lin Ling would be afraid with the return of their senior brother. Even if he was not afraid, it would be as if he was facing a great enemy. Who knew that Lin Ling was even happier than them? Taoist Heavenly Feather's face darkened. However, due to seniority, he could not make a move. He could only watch as his disciple taught Lin Ling a lesson. You are here to challenge us? Sage Realm. The senior brothers who walked in looked at Lin Ling indifferently. I've already said this 3 times. Lin Ling looked at that person. That person's strength was barely enough for Lin Ling's eyes. He nodded and said, To put it nicely, I'm here to challenge you. To put it bluntly, I'm here to beat you up. Since you dare to open a martial arts house here, you have to accept the challenges of others. If you can't even defeat the challengers, you'd better go home and plant sweet potatoes. His words were fearless, frivolous, and arrogant. Those senior brothers who had just walked in were also enraged at this moment. Beat us up? A Sage Realm cultivator dares to beat us up? It's you, son of the demon. Furthermore, someone recognized Lin Ling, son of the demon? What's that? I think I've heard of him. He seems to be very famous in the 9 prefectures. Fuck, do you think that just because you're strong in the 9 prefectures, you can do whatever you want in the final world? Many people immediately reacted. I see. The man named Senior Brother Haonan walked out. I've been away for 3 days, but I'm looking at you in a different light. Son of the demon Lin Ling, I know you are from the God Destruction Alliance. Your strength is not bad, but this is the final world. Your bit of strength is nothing in the final world. Clearly, he wanted to be the first to challenge Lin Ling. He had heard of Lin Ling. It was said that his talent was extremely strange and varied. However, he did not care because he had a second-grade ultimate desolate body. In front of a powerful ultimate desolate body, everything was futile. My strength is not as powerful as the rumors say, but it shouldn't be difficult to beat you up. Lin Ling also took a step forward as his aura emanated. He knew that it was difficult to activate the Dark North Divine technique alone. Therefore, he had to incite the anger of these people. And in fact, the anger of the crowd was like adding oil to a fire. It shouldn't be difficult to beat you up. Chapter 3462. His anger was pushed to the limit. Inferno Fiend Body. Senior brother Haonan had never suffered such humiliation before. His aura was like a raging inferno as it surged out. Raging sand and raging flames erupted at this moment. One of the 100 great bloodlines, the Inferno God body. Speaking of which, the Inferno God body was of the same lineage as the Inferno God Lin Ling cultivated in the past. Pang! Endless raging winds howled, sweeping up waves of sand that protected senior brother Haonan. Most importantly, it was the fiery sand. A palm rushed out from the raging winds, suppressing Lin Ling. This immediately caused the hall to erupt into cheers. A second-grade ultimate desolate body could dominate any place in the 9 prefectures. One of the 100 great bloodlines? No wonder you can't even enter the academy. Not only are you old, but your talent and potential are limited. Such a bloodline can only dominate the 9 prefectures. The final world is not suitable for you. Lin Ling's eyes flashed as he said nonchalantly. In the past, one of the 100 great bloodlines was a very rare talent for him. But now, one of the 100 great bloodlines could hardly catch his eye. All the experts he encountered were enveloped in divine light, as though they were the descendants of true gods. Pang! The void burned before it was shattered by the fiery sand. A palm struck Lin Ling, causing a terrifying fiery sandstorm to sweep out. However, the martial arts dojo immediately activated a powerful array to block the impact, but the Flying Feather Martial Arts Dojo also swayed a little. How powerful! Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He can't even withstand a single blow? Senior brother Haonan stood in front of Lin Ling. He was surprised that his attack had succeeded, but in front of him, a temperature that was even hotter than his flames emanated. I should be the one saying that to you. Looking up, Lin Ling was standing there with colorful flames burning around him. It was the space-time fire. Furthermore, it was a 4th-grade space-time fire. This was not something senior brother Haonan could withstand. Even if he stood there and allowed Lin Ling to hit him, he would not be able to do anything to him. And at this moment, a palm reached out from the void and grabbed senior brother Haonan's neck before smashing him to the ground. Rumble! A force even more terrifying than before erupted. Previously, when senior brother Haonan attacked, the Flying Feather Martial School was slightly shaken, but now, it was 30% shaken. The colorful flames were like fireflies as they scattered in all directions. After they scattered, people saw a figure sitting there drinking wine. The person sitting there was senior brother Haonan. At this moment, he was in a very sorry state. His hair was a mess, his face was covered in blood, and who knew how many teeth he had lost. His face was filled with fear. Obviously, Lin Ling was holding back. Otherwise, he would have died a long time ago. Sigh. Is your Flying Feather Martial School a gathering place of trash? This guy who can only make a chair is actually your senior brother? Are you blind, or am I blind? While everyone was still in shock, Lin Ling's disdainful voice drifted over. His words were incomparably arrogant, as if he was trampling on everyone's self-esteem. It was undeniable that Lin Ling's strength was indeed strong, but he shouldn't be too arrogant. You should be the teacher of the Flying Feather Martial School, right? No wonder you're so bad. I came here to discuss some things with you out of goodwill, but you told me to scram. Now, don't you think it's a sad thing to tell someone who's so much stronger than you to scram? And now, even your senior brother has been defeated. Don't you feel ashamed? Or are you born with thick skin? Sigh. Ignoring the angry disciples, Lin Ling looked at the teacher again. He spoke slowly as if he was talking about something very normal. Taoist Heavenly Feather was stunned and almost wanted to kill Lin Ling. That was because Lin Ling was mocking him after mocking his disciples. This was too much. If not for the fact that he had scruples about the world order and the rules of the martial school, he would have attacked long ago. The son of the devil, the son of the devil. This was simply a great devil. What happened? Taoist Heavenly Feather obviously couldn't do anything. However, the savior of the Flying Feather Martial School had finally appeared. This person was the strongest disciple of the Flying Feather Martial School. He came from the Fu Hang Manor and was a genius that was heavily nurtured by the forces of the 9 states. Under countless gazes, a handsome young man walked in from the main door with a few beautiful ladies in his arms. However, the scene in the main hall shocked him. Senior brother Lin Jingyu. When the surrounding people saw him, they quickly shouted and told him everything that had happened. As for the handsome young man, he was smiling at first, but his face gradually darkened. Challenge. And beat up all his junior brothers until they didn't dare to speak? Most importantly, this person was the son of the devil. He was a genius nurtured by the Fu Hang manor, so he naturally knew who the son of the devil was. And this was exactly what he wanted, because he knew how much the Fu Hang manor wanted to kill Lin Ling. Although this was the final world, and there were deities here, so he didn't dare to act recklessly, but it shouldn't be a problem to cripple Lin Ling. Son of the devil. Lin Jingyu raised his head and smiled at Lin Ling. However, his smile was somewhat cold. Senior brother Jingyu, stomp him to death. Cheers immediately came from the surroundings. The strongest disciple of the Flying Feather Martial School was about to fight. One had to know that when the experts of the Flying Feather Martial School were not around, senior brother Lin Jingyu would guide them on behalf of their teacher. In other words, Lin Jingyu could be considered half a teacher. How could the son of the devil be a match for a teacher-level person teaching the son of the devil a lesson? Lin Ling also looked at Lin Jingyu. His 10,000 demonic eyes instantly saw through his strength. Second-level martial ancestor realm. Third-grade ultimate desolate body. This strength was not bad. Lin Jingyu originally wanted to tell Lin Ling about the 9 states and the Fu Hang manor, but Lin Ling was faster than him. You are the strongest disciple of the Flying Feather Martial School? How disappointing. Hugging a beauty in each hand. Are you trying to prove how popular you are? On the path of martial arts, you have not even seen through the inner demon of lust. I really don't understand how you came to the final world. Let me remind you, you can go into seclusion in the universal void for 1,000 years. When you come out, everything will be meaningless in your heart. You will know that lust is nothing. What? Lin Jingyu was stunned. The surrounding people were also stunned. This was because Lin Ling was giving Lin Jingyu pointers. As the #1 genius of the Flying Feather Martial School, Lin Jingyu was usually the one giving pointers to others. Regardless of how calm Lin Jingyu's temperament was, he could not hold himself back after hearing those words. Enough! He roared furiously. I don't care why you are here, and I don't care what kind of background you have, but everyone has a reverse scale. You challenged the school the moment you arrived, defeated my junior brothers, and even sat on their bodies to drink. How can I tolerate this? You humiliated my seniors as soon as you arrived, causing them to be unable to vent their anger. How can I tolerate this? You scolded me as soon as you arrived in front of my lover. How can I tolerate this? Even if you are the son of the devil whose name resounds throughout the 9 states, I still have to teach you a lesson today. Everyone has their own pride. Chapter 3463. Frivolous and Unruly. The entire hall seemed to have become illusionary, gorgeous and colorful. Birth of all creations, return to origin. In the hall, everyone's heart calmed down. Other than them, everything returned to its initial state. The lush grass quietly returned to its initial state. The gorgeous flowers quietly returned to their budding state. It was extremely magical. Free and unfettered God. The teacher smiled. He knew that this was the bloodline of a free and unfettered God from the era of gods. This free and unfettered God was recorded in the classics as being invincible. He could save the world and borrow people from the underworld. He could be said to be an omnipotent existence. And this free and unfettered God had traveled all over the world. It was said that he had even left this world. From the perspective of mortals like them, the free and unfettered God was the divine doctor among the gods. However, he did not only heal mortals, but gods as well. What a strange talent. It gives me the feeling that there is soul power, but it is also enveloped by the light of gods. Everything about me seems to be sealed, returning to its initial state. Especially the realm-devouring beast's talent, it feels like it is in a deep slumber. Lin Ling was still sitting on senior brother Haonan's lap, drinking wine casually. However, he was a little surprised. This was because the powerful talents he had seen were mostly offensive. However, this person's talent was more about influencing the opponent. Looking at the white world in front of him again, Lin Ling could only vaguely see a little of it, but not everything. This also meant that although Lin Jingyu's ultimate desolate body was only a third-grade one, its potential was not weak. Unfortunately, its attack power is a little weak. After a moment of investigation, Lin Ling shook his head. Although his realm-devouring beast talent was sealed, he had more than one powerful talent. Hiding in the white clouds, Lin Ling was ready to make his move. His soul power spread out, fusing with his talents, and quietly transforming. However, because the realm-devouring beast was sealed, he fused with the double dragon talent. His speed instantly approached 500 world speed. Without the realm-devouring beast's talent, his speed was slower than usual. However, finding Lin Jingyu was obviously not difficult. Lin Ling grabbed out with his hand, and it was as if he was looking for a wisp of duckweed in the boundless world. Even if the Grand Tao was boundless, it seemed to be unable to escape Lin Ling's eyes. His speed was too fast. His soul power was too strong. As long as he could find a trace, he would be able to catch Lin Jingyu in this strange world. At this moment, Lin Jingyu was invisible. He had turned into a white cloud in this world. However, an arm appeared out of nowhere as if it wanted to break his world. What? Lin Jingyu was shocked. Impossible. How could this be? He was a second-layer martial progenitor. Furthermore, he was no ordinary martial progenitor. He was comparable to the top geniuses of the academy. However, the son of the devil actually found him. Bang! The palm reached out as if it had grasped an invisible great Tao. But at that moment, Lin Ling appeared. His arm was grabbed by Lin Ling. This caused his expression to change tremendously. He tried to break free, but he realized that it was a dragon claw grabbing onto his arm, preventing him from doing so. Meanwhile, a demonic figure appeared among the clouds. Upon taking a closer look, it was a monster that resembled both a dragon and a human. The appearance of such a monster in the magnificent cloud world was as if a demonic god had appeared among the peaceful heavens and earth. Your talent is still lacking in strength. It's fine if you can influence your opponent, but if you can't, that's all you've got. Kid, don't rely too much on your talent. Your foundation is important too. Lin Ling's hoarse voice could be heard, causing Lin Jingyu to clench his teeth in anger. Even now, this guy still did not forget to scold him? You mentioned that you have your pride, but in my opinion, that's all you've got. What pride do you have? You've lost. Bang! Lin Ling clenched his other claw into a fist and threw a powerful punch at Lin Jingyu's chest. With the strength of his flesh and the 5 dantians, even a second-layer martial progenitor would not be able to resist the punch. Rumble! The magnificent world instantly shattered like glass. A figure flew out and smashed into the wall of the main hall, causing cracks to appear on the wall. Following which, the figure slid down powerlessly. Lin Jingyu spat out a mouthful of blood and struggled to stand up. He was unwilling to give up, but in the next moment, a powerful force engulfed his entire body. With a plop, he finally collapsed and fainted. He believed that he was a genius nurtured by Fu Hang Manor, and that it would not be difficult for him to defeat Lin Ling. However, if he knew what had happened in the Starry Sky Forest, he would not have such confidence. In the Starry Sky Forest, their Fu Hang Manor was completely annihilated. However, because of this, only 2 people knew what had happened in the Starry Sky Forest. They were Duan Wuhan and Ningbo Tao. They would not reveal what had happened in the Starry Sky Forest. At this moment, Lin Ling returned to his original form and a smile appeared on his face. It seemed that this challenge had not only stimulated one's talent, it had also allowed him to witness an even more powerful ultimate desolate body. Senior brother Jingyu. After a short moment of silence in the main hall, horrified voices could be heard. Even their soaring feather martial house's senior brother had been defeated? Furthermore, the person who had defeated him was only at the Sage Realm. A sense of horror spread through everyone's hearts. Even Taoist Heavenly Feather's body trembled at this moment. He did not find it strange that the son of the demon had defeated an ordinary martial ancestor. However, he had defeated Lin Jingyu, who had an ultimate 3rd-grade desolate body. If that was the case, no one in the soaring feather martial house could stop the son of the demon. He was defeated just like that? At this moment, Lin Ling's calm voice could be heard. What a disappointment. Could he be faking it? I knew it. A guy who is obsessed with women has no dignity. When he encounters a small setback, all he can do is pretend to be dead and escape. Sigh, how can such a person talk about martial arts? His voice was still filled with disdain and frivolity. Everyone was shocked by Lin Ling's strength, but when they heard his arrogant words, they were so angry that their bodies trembled. They had lost and it was already embarrassing. However, the son of the demon was adding insult to injury. Damn it! What nonsense are you talking about? Senior brother Jingyu was not faking it. Didn't you see him vomit blood? He vomited 3 meters away. Furthermore, with senior brother Jingyu's character, as long as he could not beat him, he would immediately beg for mercy. It was impossible for him to pretend to be dead. Someone said angrily. Clearly, he was so angry at Lin Ling that he was about to cry. Shut up. However, the person next to him immediately slapped him. Can your mouth talk? How can senior brother Jingyu be someone who would easily beg for mercy? Aren't you mocking senior brother Jingyu for bullying the weak and fearing the strong? But, I can't watch him humiliate senior brother Jingyu. The person who was slapped said innocently. He did not know that his words were the greatest humiliation. As for Xiaoyu and company, they were watching and could not help but laugh. Chapter 3464. What a great humiliation. Enough. Is this the feathery dojo? You're all a bunch of trash with weak strength. You'd better go home and farm. At this time, Lin Ling stopped these people from talking too much. Then, Lin Ling smiled faintly. If you're not as strong as others, then you should obediently kneel down and call me big brother. I hate people like you the most. You're weak but stubborn. You won't accept it even if I talk to you. Submit. Submit my ass. Everyone almost roared in anger. Lin Ling had defeated them. If he had a bit of grace, they would be wholeheartedly convinced. But what about Lin Ling? After defeating them, he was arrogant and trampling on them. How could they be convinced? They were all martial artists with dignity. How about this? I don't like to bully people, so I'll give you a chance. Lin Ling spoke again. None of you are my match in a one-on-one battle. I will also end up being labeled as someone who bullies the weak. So, why don't you join forces? Perhaps you will still have a chance. Of course, it's also very slim. Seeing that it was about time, Lin Ling finally revealed his purpose. However, as soon as he said that, the Flying Feather Martial Dojo went into an uproar. Don't like to bully others? Do you think you haven't bullied me enough? Furthermore, there was still a chance if they worked together, but it was very slim. This was looking down on him too much. The senior called Taoist Heavenly Feather was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The Flying Feather Martial House had a history of 10,000 years in Intentionless City. It was not that they had never met arrogant people, but it was the first time they had met someone as arrogant as Lin Ling. Come on, use your full strength. I'll just stand here and let you attack me. If you can force me to take a step back, I'll immediately apologize and never step into this place again. Therefore you must use your full strength. Moreover, this will also allow you to experience the gap between the strong and the weak. It will also be helpful for your martial arts journey. Lin Ling said slowly, ignoring everyone's anger. Take a step back? There are so many of us. Even if you're a true martial god, you won't be able to stop us. You've gone too far, you've gone too far. An evil fire erupted in everyone's heart. They had the urge to chop the devil's son into pieces because he was too much of a bully. Seeing this, Lin Ling waved at the crowd. Actually, it's very simple. I just looked down on you. Come on. Go. Taoist Heavenly Feather was the first to roar. Blood was flowing out of the corner of his mouth. He was so angered by the son of devil that he almost went mad. Kill him. Everyone, work together. Everyone's anger had reached its peak. This made Xiaoyu and the others a little worried. They were afraid that Lin Ling had gone too far. However, Lin Ling's eyes shone brightly. He had prepared so much just to let this group of people's anger reach its peak. Only then would they be able to display extraordinary strength. After all, it wouldn't be difficult to defeat this group of people. The difficult part was to let them erupt with 120% of their strength. Lin Ling had also evaluated this strength. It wouldn't be good if it was weaker, and it would be beyond Lin Ling's limit if it was stronger. Therefore, the current situation was just right. Rumble. In the main hall, all kinds of grade power and talent power bombarded Lin Ling's body. Lin Ling immediately activated the dark north godly art and used his body to resist the power. He stood straight like a pine tree. His body was strong and his defense was terrifying. All kinds of power rushed into his body, but most of it was blocked by his strong defense. The remaining power poured into the dark north godly art. In Lin Ling's body, a thin eggshell-like power appeared. It absorbed the external power and formed another kind of mysterious power that poured into the space-time divine steel. This power was very similar to the one that Emperor God Zhang Gang had given to Lin Ling. Rumble! In just a moment, Lin Ling's space-time divine steel had reached the 4th grade. The power of time, space and fire had also reached the limit. The space-time divine eye had finally recovered to its peak state. Fire and lightning appeared in his eyes. Lin Ling's hair danced wildly. Colorful flames appeared in his eyes. He only needed to look and the space-time divine steel would immediately suppress him. However, he didn't attack. He wanted to fully activate the space-time divine steel's potential. Who told you to be arrogant? Dang! At this moment, the eyes of the experts of the Flying Feather Martial Sect were red. They worked together to attack Lin Ling, but what surprised them was that Lin Ling was like a stone pillar, not moving at all. Their ferocious boundary energies hit Lin Ling's body as if they hit the sea, disappearing without a trace. This made everyone so depressed that they wanted to vomit blood. Too weak, too weak. Did you guys not eat? Or are you all like that senior brother Jingyu? Are you all pussies? On the contrary, Lin Ling's body was dripping with pleasure. He couldn't help but roar. Fuck. A warrior can be killed, but not humiliated. Everyone was already depressed. When they saw Lin Ling pushing his luck, they were so angry that their hair stood on end. Not to mention that they were men. Even if they were women, they would have lost their minds at this moment. Disciples, use all your skills and talents. You must smash this kid to the ground. If you succeed today, all your tuition fees will be waived. Moreover, the martial arts school will have other rewards. Taoist Heavenly Feather roared. His eyes were filled with anger as if he was about to devour someone. Today, the Son of Demon had humiliated their Flying Feather Martial Sect to the extreme. Now, if all the disciples couldn't suppress the Son of Demon, then would there still be a place for the Flying Feather Martial Sect to stay in Intentionless City? If this matter were to spread, people would laugh their heads off. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and their morale was like a flame. However, their strongest disciple had been defeated by Lin Ling. Even if they joined forces, their strength was limited. They couldn't be compared to those experts from the Snow Wind Academy. After fighting for a full 2 hours, Lin Ling was getting more and more energetic. The potential of the space-time divine steel was constantly stimulated, and it was moving towards the 5th grade. Looking at the experts from the Flying Feather Martial Sect, they were all sweating profusely. Their faces were pale, and their boundary essence was almost exhausted. Some even sat down cross-legged to recover. Could this guy be made of King Kong? If we join forces, we can destroy 10,000 worlds and sweep through the 9 states. But he didn't even take a step back. Is he still human? The people from the Flying Feather Martial Sect said weakly. At this moment, they didn't look angry at all. They even had difficulty speaking as they panted heavily. They stared at Lin Ling with eyes full of fear. They were the ones who attacked, but the one who was being beaten wasn't afraid. Instead, they were the ones who attacked. What kind of situation was this? You guys use more strength. Didn't you eat? Trash. You disappoint me. I beg you use more strength. You only need to hold on for an hour. Help me. When Lin Ling saw that the energy entering his body was getting weaker and weaker, he couldn't help but feel anxious. However, no one dared to look at him. They fell to the ground in a mess, turning a deaf ear to Lin Ling's arrogant provocation. Chapter 3465. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. His name shook Intentionless City. Heavens! Taoist Heavenly Feather's face was as red as an eggplant. He had practiced martial arts for tens of thousands of years, and this was the first time he had encountered such humiliation. In his opinion, Lin Ling's request for help was actually a disguised form of humiliation. However, He had wronged Lin Ling because Lin Ling was really asking for their help. His space-time divine steel was only a thin film away from the 5th grade. However, the disciples of Feather Martial Arts Dojo were out of energy again. Sigh, forget it. Let's leave it at that for today. I'll come again tomorrow to ask for more advice. Lin Ling knew that there was no point in continuing, so he sighed and left. Again. Everyone was celebrating the departure of the son of the demon, but when they heard the last sentence, they all panicked. The humiliation was not over yet? Another round tomorrow? However, no matter how unwilling they were, Lin Ling appeared again the next day and made a ruckus. The strong fighters were so angry that their hair stood on end, and they bombarded Lin Ling again. However, it was to no avail. This went on for 3 days. In the end, no matter how much Lin Ling mocked them, they ignored him. You want to see the gods with your looks? Even the gods don't want you if you stand guard for them. Bring out some fighting spirit. Martial artists, the more you fight, the braver you get. Take life and death lightly, and fight if you're not convinced. That's what a martial artist is like. If you're not convinced, come and fight me. You're so ugly, and you're so weak. You're the ultimate humiliation of the world. Seeing that everyone was like mud, Lin Ling's words became more and more cunning. Fuck, what a venomous mouth. Although I'm angry, no matter what you say, I won't fight anymore. However, all the strong fighters had lost their will to resist. They were indeed like mud, and even their martial arts hearts were traumatized. As for Lin Ling, he was extremely regretful because other than the first round of attacks, the second and third times were weak. This caused the space-time divine steel to always be a hair's breadth away from the final limit. Forget it. I'll come again tomorrow. I hope you'll think about it tonight. Lin Ling had no choice but to leave. Big brother, please don't come. Even if you come, we won't do anything. Please spare us. That's right. I've been practicing martial arts for so long, and I've never been afraid of anything. But now, I finally know what fear is. Why don't you go to another martial arts club? Look at Taoist Heavenly Feather. He hasn't appeared in 3 days. I heard that he's hiding in his home and doesn't dare to come out. Our dojo underestimated you once, but you trampled on our dojo for 3 days and 3 nights. Everyone cried and said, that won't do. On the path of martial arts, there is no such thing as giving up halfway. Moreover, our cooperation is quite comfortable. Lin Ling immediately shook his head. Comfortable? Everyone's eyes became even more moist. The son of the devil was comfortable, but they were having a hard time. Because of this, many people were planning to leave the dojo. Little ancestor, grandpa, if you really want a sparring partner, you can go to other dojos. If you continue to challenge them, they won't dare to do anything. This won't achieve the effect you want. Look at them. At this time, a sullen voice was heard. It was Taoist Heavenly Feather. He was too ashamed to face Lin Ling, but in the end, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He pointed at the disciples of the dojo and said. Lin Ling's gaze swept across them, and only then did he realize that all the experts of the Soaring Feather Dojo looked dispirited. Some of them were lying straight on their beds, as if they had seen through life and death. If you want me to fight, I won't fight. You can kill me. Lin Ling couldn't help but ponder because the truth was the same as what Taoist Heavenly Feather had said. He couldn't stay in Intentionless City for long. Moreover, after fighting with these people for 3 days, he was a little tired. If that's the case, then forget it. I'll go to another dojo. Lin Ling finally made up his mind and turned to leave. Seeing Lin Ling's slender figure disappear, everyone was stunned. After a while, they finally wiped away their tears and let out a hearty laugh. The son of the devil is finally gone. That's great, that's great. He's simply the great devil king. I hope he goes to other dojos. Senior Heavenly Feather, he's gone. He's finally gone. Some excited people even pounced on Taoist Heavenly Feather and hugged him. Taoist Heavenly Feather's tears flowed down his face as he nodded and said with relief, he's gone. He's gone. These ancestors have shown themselves. The Soaring Feather Dojo had been here for tens of thousands of years and had seen all kinds of storms. However, at this moment, Taoist Heavenly Feather had a feeling that the Soaring Feather Dojo had just survived a great calamity. The next day, Lin Ling brought Xiaoyu and the rest to another dojo. This dojo was called the Demon Slayer Dojo. Just like the Soaring Feather Dojo, when they found out that Lin Ling was not here to learn martial arts, their attitude was extremely bad. Lin Ling did not give them any face and directly shouted, "Trash, I'm here to challenge your dojo. When it comes to martial arts, I'm sorry, but everyone here is trash." What? No one expected Lin Ling to be so arrogant. Don't be surprised. After seeing me, you'll suddenly realize that strength can be so concrete. Lin Ling was indifferent and continued to provoke them. Bastard! Fight him! However, the dojo's experts took turns to fight, but they were all defeated by Lin Ling. With your strength, I have 100 ways to defeat you, but you can't do anything. So you should join forces. This is your only chance. After Lin Ling defeated all the disciples of the dojo, his momentum became even more arrogant. Without any suspense, the disciples of the dojo were furious and joined forces to fight Lin Ling. Xiaoyu and the rest were watching and could not help but chuckle. They did not expect Lin Ling to have the potential to be a villain. As for the result of joining forces, it was just as Lin Ling had guessed. No one could shake Lin Ling. Instead, Lin Ling's space-time divine steel was constantly activated. However, this final threshold was actually more difficult than Lin Ling had imagined. This also meant that any talent had its limits. If one wanted to surpass the limits, they would have to put in a lot of effort. However, Lin Ling was not in a hurry. There were many dojos in Intentionless City. Sooner or later, he would be able to break through his talent. However, what made Lin Ling depressed was that the Demon Slayer Dojo surrendered the next day. They had even less fighting spirit than the Soaring Feather Dojo. Moreover, when Lin Ling went over early in the morning, he saw countless disciples kneeling down. Trash. Moreover, no matter how Lin Ling provoked them, these people were like mud. They did not even have the courage to raise their heads to look at Lin Ling, let alone fight. We're trash, we're trash. Ancestor Grandpa, we've heard about the Soaring Feather Dojo. Please go and destroy the other dojos. The dojo master cried. With his strength, he was naturally not afraid of Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling was here to challenge the disciples, and none of them were a match for Lin Ling. Therefore, he was extremely helpless. Trash. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.